There was a bear in the Magic Kingdom, if you haven't heard. We're going to have a conversation about that. Moana lines were crazy today at Epcot, and we're going to say a big goodbye to the Starcruiser. Ignite the spark tonight on ParksCenter. Hey guys, welcome to ParksCenter for September 24th, 2023. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you guys so much for being with us as always. We appreciate you. If you have not already, please subscribe to WDWNT TV and also give this video a thumbs up as it helps people to find us. And tonight we have a very interesting panel put together tonight because we're going to be talking at the end about the Starcruiser, and everybody on this panel has been and has some stories to share. So we're going to talk about Parks News first, and then we're going to talk about the Starcruiser. So I feel like we're past spoilers at this point since it closes in a week. So hopefully you guys will join us till the end. But let's start with my good friend Kamila. How are you?
So good to see all of you. Hi Rob. Hi everyone.
And Desi.
Tabuite.
Yeah, no one gets that. And
Celebrate,
Stephanie.
cherish the moment. Cherish the moment.
Capture a smile. Stephanie.
I can barely contain my excitement to be here.
Oh, I knew what you did there. You were talking about the bear. That's awesome. We did not send Kamila the memo that we were supposed to all wear our Star Wars Starcruiser.
I'm noticing that. I'm like, I could have put my outfit on.
Well, we're going to take a quick commercial after the Parks News. You can go, like, throw on a scarf or something so that you can get in the spirit of it. But again, very sad news that the Starcruiser is closing for us, the people who got to go on it, and are even more sad now. And we'll talk about that in the back half of the show. But first, let's talk about some Parks News, including the Moana previews. I think we were all excited about the fact that there were going to be AP and DVC previews for Moana, the Journey of Water inspired by Moana. The funny thing to me about this is that since the beginning we've been talking about this, people have been walking by these walls thinking they were building some kind of a magical Moana dark ride behind these walls. And some people are like, it's just a walkthrough. But the crowds were crazy today, so much so they had to instill a virtual queue after the fact. Kamila, I want to ask you because, like, didn't or shouldn't they have expected there to be like ginormous crowds? Because when they said there were no reservations required, you just had to have a park reservation, I was like, this is going to be anarchy.
Yeah, I mean, Moana continues to be one of the most popular and most streamed movies on Disney Plus. It is an extremely popular IP. I think anything Moana, whether it's a walkthrough, an attraction, a meet and greet, is going to do very well. So yes, you would think that they would be prepared for this. And I will just say, I am not one of the lucky or chosen ones who gets to do an AP or DVC or cast member preview, but I was just at EPCOT. And I had a chance to kind of get a little bit of like a sneak peek of this thing at night, and it looked stunning. I mean, I literally only saw it for like a few moments, but it looked really pretty.
Okay. Desi, have you had a chance to experience it yet, or how are you feeling about all that?
So I kind of feel bad. I had a park reservation for today, and I forgot it was a family member's birthday. So I wound up not going. But my aunt, I had two aunts who went. One of them got in. The other one was not able to get in because of the virtual queue. So I really wish that I could have seen it. And I would like to try again at some point before the previews stop. But I don't think there's any reservations left. But I'll keep looking.
Yeah, that is the thing. As soon as I heard there were reservations, but you didn't actually need a specific reservation for the attraction, you just needed to be in the gates of Epcot. I went and made reservations because I'm going to be there this coming weekend. So I was like, this is going to be great. I'm going to be able to go and take my kids and take them through. And then I kept thinking to myself, how are you going to manage that? Like, I was expecting an entire day queue, but I forgot that there's like no place to queue people because there's still all these walls up, and it's, so the reservations have been gone. Desi, thanks for taking a spot that could have gone to somebody else. That's awesome. Good deal. Before we go to Stephanie on this, I want to ask you. So they had two different places you could check in. One of them was a place that you could check in for DVC preview. And as a DVC person, and I know you are too, I was like, does this give me a leg up? Like when I go there, can I bypass the AP and go straight to the DVC? Do you think? How are you? I mean, again, it's an insane amount of people who want to do this, but what are you thinking about all that?
It sounded like yes. The answer would be yes because they gave you a return time. So you could go and do whatever you wanted to do in Epcot and come back to your designated time. I think that's probably what they needed to do from the beginning. You know, for certain things like Moonlight Magic for DVC, you have to enter an online queue, and then once you get into entrance into the reservation, you can pick your slot time. I know I've done that for previews for Galaxy's Edge and other things like that before. That probably would have made more sense because this is a walkthrough attraction. It's not meant to be, you know, an Omni mover or something like that. You know, just let people walk through it. So I'm not sure why they didn't do that with the APs either, but yeah, it sounded like the DVC had the leg up on that.
And I assume that the cast members had to sign up for slots or times or something like that when they were doing their previews. Why would they just make it a free-for-all for the AP? I don't know. But obviously they've decided to go ahead and fix that problem. And so I don't know how I feel about that because the other part of it is it's a VQ, but it's you have to be in the park to activate it. So you can't do it at like 6:59 a.m. from your hotel room. You have to actually be in the park to do it. So I mean, I hope we get more news on this and what's going on, but today was kind of a fiasco, and hopefully, you know, people who don't or who have park reservations who aren't going to use them will let them loose, and there may be other opportunities for people to go. Before we move on, I do want to say a special thank you. We have a super chat from Jungle Cruiser, and it says, I loved the bear story at Magic Kingdom. We was just glad that Disney was able to keep the cheeseburger spring roll cart open. Yeah, priorities here. Having half the park closed and no spring rolls would have been too much to bear.
Oh.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. All right, Jungle Cruiser. Thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate it. We always appreciate the super chats. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, so let's move on to this next one, which was a Tron injury, is what I'm calling it. We had a WDWNT reader reach out and say that they had been injured on the Tron roller coaster. So this is one where you have to lean forward on it. And a lot of people have had problems because they're too big or their calves are too big trying to get into the car. And in this particular case, she was very petite and she leaned forward, and something in the pulling on the thing, pulling on the handlebars, had pushed her down, and she said she felt a pop. Stephanie, you do that medical thing. How do you feel about, like, I felt a pop, but I went ahead and rode the thing anyway? I mean, no big deal, right?
Well, probably at that point she's like, I'm already on it, you know, I might as well do it. So poor guy. So yeah, I think that anyway, I think first of all, thank you for watching WDWNT and giving us this information. I do think that it's hard to break ribs in general. It's kind of atypical for somebody to just be on a ride and then have a severe trauma and have that rib break, especially not the 7th or the 10th ribs. Those are the easier ones to break, or blunt force trauma. But yes, if this person was very little, then maybe just the sheer force of that caused it to happen. And if you're having difficulty breathing, if it hurts, you know, to inhale and exhale, and you're having severe pain to your side, then I would go get checked out, at least get an x-ray. It could take 6 to 8 weeks before the person feels better. But like I said, you know, this is atypical, and I would highly recommend following up with your primary care physician and maybe getting a DEXA scan to look at, you know, calcification of the bones.
This medical disclaimer brought to you by Stephanie. No, really, thank you for that. No, that's great. That's like awesome information. Wow. Like, see, we didn't even know because this broke today that we were going to need a medical expert on here. So thank you for giving that information. Again, I've ridden this thing, but you're right. Like, you get up at 6:59 in the morning to get a virtual queue. I'm going to ride it. I'm on it anyway. I've gotten all the way over here. Sure, let me go ahead and get on this thing. But this is not something I ever expected to happen. You know, Desi, I'm going to go ahead and say a smaller American. Do you ever feel like there's some like weirdness in riding this thing, or are you pretty comfortable on it?
I've never felt like I'm going to break a rib on this thing. Is it a little awkward to get used to because that's not how you typically ride a roller coaster? Sure. I can't imagine what I would have to do or how hard I'd need to be pulling on that to break a rib. So, I mean, I'm sorry.
And maybe it was a malfunction. Maybe it was a malfunction of the equipment.
Yeah, it could be.
Down.
But I mean, it is really weird because when you pull, you've got two different levers that you can pull down depending on how far you can reach, and you pull it down and it locks into place. So I can see it pushing on you when it comes down. But I mean, on this in particular, I feel bad for them. Now, our article does go on to say that Disney did an amazing job and was very nice, reaching out, helping with medical bills, that kind of a thing. Anything you want to add on this before we move on, Kamila?
I mean, just new fear unlocked. I feel like this wasn't even something that I was thinking about could happen. And, I feel like I think about the first time I rode Tron versus the more recent times I rode it, there's something kind of terrifying because it is such an untraditional way to get into a roller coaster. So the first few times you do it, at least for me, I couldn't really relax because it was just such an unnatural position. And so, it just hearing that it sounds like maybe this wasn't even the only person that this happened to is a little concerning and scary.
But also, this thing existed in Shanghai for years, so this is not a new ride system by any means. But yeah, it is an unconventional way to do it. I see Care Bear in the chat said that the article said that Disney was paying her medical bills, which again, I'm not trying to at Disney on this one at all. I think that they did what they should do, and that's great. I love that. It's a very interesting story. Just broke today, so I figured we would cover it. I don't think it's anything necessarily to be worried about, but I do encourage anybody, again, as a larger American, I would say you should check those, check out the cars before you. They have those test bikes right out front, just to see how it's going to fit. Because again, I've talked to people who are a fairly normal size, but their calves are big, and so it comes down on their calves a little bit weird, or they're a little taller, and that makes it a little bit more strange. But I love that it's a unique experience. I love this attraction. And I just hope everybody, I hope that this person is okay, and that they do a safety check and everything checks out fine, and maybe it was just a fluke that it happened the way that it did. Let's move on to all the bear jokes you can possibly bear. I find this article in particular very interesting because I think it broke Monday. That was right after we had ParksCenter on Sunday night. This guy got loose in the. No, this wasn't the one. The first article I saw about this was an article from somebody else, I think, that said, it was on Twitter, and it said, the Magic Kingdom is half closed today. And I'm like, what? And I go and I open up my app because that's the thing I do is I look at wait times constantly, no matter where I am. I open up the app and see the little stars or the asterisks all over the left-hand side of the park, and everything's shut down. And I'm like, wow, it must have been power. And then there's a cast member saying we're having technical difficulties, which now has a broad meaning of what technical means. And we're having technical difficulties, and unfortunately, this half of the park is closed. However, you're welcome to go experience Tomorrowland and Fantasyland. And I thought, oh, well, that's good. And then I'm counting up, okay, that's literally half the park is still open and half is closed. I was just like, what could this be? And then we get all the news. There's a bear. There's a bear in there, and then of course all of the Country Bear jokes and Winnie the Pooh and Brer Bear and all this stuff starts hitting Twitter and blowing it up. And I mean, at that point, everyone was safe. The bear is safe. So now I guess the jokes can begin. So I'm going to start with Kamila, and we'll just work our way around. How are you feeling?
Very good. That the bear. Very good that the bear is safe. I saw the video of it being released, and it actually was so cute. I was expecting it to be bigger, but it was kind of like a petite, cute little bear. And I mean, not that I think it's friendly, but aww. I was like, I kind of want to see that and be around it. I don't know. But no, I mean, just fascinating. And it's a reminder of really just how much space and land is, included when we talk about the Walt Disney World Resort, and the natural wildlife that they have to be responsible for, from things that could be in the water, things that could be in the trees. And I think about this sometimes, like when I'm walking back to my resort at night, or even when I'm in like Magic Kingdom in particular, at like an after hours party or something like that. I think about like, is there like what all lurks around here? And so it's just a fascinating story.
I am fascinated in the fact that you are looking up for bears when you're walking around. You're like, this could happen anytime. Let me make sure there's no bears in the trees.
There's been like random campers. Why not? What else lurks out there?
I know. I'm sorry if that gave you pause. Let's go to Stephanie on this one.
You took my joke. Yes. The story gave me pause. No, so I'll tell a quick story actually about the wildlife, like you're talking about, Kamila. So we were walking into at Hollywood Studios into Toy Story Mania, and that queue right there, you're barely I didn't mean to say that actually, but you're barely
2 points for Stephanie
outside right before you go into the building and queue inside. But we found a snake in the middle of the Fast Pass lane. Yes, and so our cast member that was right near, he stood by. He said, "Nobody touch." He called immediately on his walkie-talkie to someone I don't know, and they came and got something. But it turned out it was not a poisonous snake. But of course, I was taking pictures of it and Googling it, right there. But yes, you can just find all kinds of things. Fed a bunny a French fry the other day at EPCOT. So, you find these harmless animals. It was already eating them. But then you find ones that you can, have an encounter with and might not be the best. So you do have to be paying attention. You do have to be aware.
That's be a bear. That is a very scary story. Stephanie, is this the snake you were talking about? You saw at the Toy Story? Because if so,
quite.
I think that's part of the show. I don't think that's something to worry about. All right, Desi.
I'm sorry. I'm out of bear puns.
Womp, womp.
But
all right.
I know I keep clawing through ideas, but nothing's coming
yes.
up. So it happened Monday, I guess, as I was disembarking from the Starcruiser, and I was just driving home, but my aunt was going to Magic Kingdom. I'm like, that's crazy. You're going to go to Magic Kingdom right after disembarking from the Starcruiser. And so I was like, did you see the bear? And she didn't see the bear, but she said that she basically was only going to Magic Kingdom because she got a Tron virtual queue. And so she just sat there and people watched and said that it was very crowded on the Tomorrowland side because half the park was shut down.
Yeah.
Yep, that'll tend to happen when you shut down half the park. The other half gets a little busy. Yeah, I would imagine that. And there were so many people who were unaware of the bear. But again, it's a good story because again, nobody got hurt. Disney handled it well. They released it into the wild, and it's a happy ending. So thanks for bearing with us on that one. On the next, I do want to talk about this chat though, because I saw that Tony said in chat, my wife had a snake crawl up her pants at Disney's Animal Kingdom. What? Please tell me that's not true. How in the world? Exactly, new fear unlocked. Is that what you said, Kamila? New fear unlocked. She's stunned.
I mean,
now,
what is happening? I thought people were going to have alligator stories, but snakes? Absolutely not. That can't happen. I'm sorry.
She's like,
that can't happen.
Nope, we're done. We are done. Knott's Berry Farm gets all my money from now on. It's landlocked. It's all good.
This is why I go to
Disneyland. Let's move on to some interesting news that came out. $6 billion. I think that's a lot of money. I'm gonna be honest. In my life, that's a lot of money. $6 billion in the next 10 years that they expect to spend, according to a report on Disney Parks and Resorts and the cruise line. Now, that's great, except for the fact that I'm sure that more of it's going to the cruise line and probably other parks than I would like it to. I would like for you to spend $60 billion at Disney World and $60 billion at Disneyland, please. That's what I would like to have. But they talked about that they are going to spend basically double what they've spent in the past 10 years, which includes like the expansion of places like Pandora. So this is pretty exciting news to me. I know that there were a couple things that Josh talked about that I want to throw out, and then I want to go to the panel and get your thoughts on it. One of the things they talked about was we have 1,000 acres, which gives us the space to do 7 Disneylands. Okay, do a new one. Do a new park. That's what I have to say. The second thing is that they said they're not going to do something anywhere that they don't already have parks, which, you know, we know that Universal's building something in Texas. Disney had toyed around with DC before to do Disney's America. There was rumor they were going to do that one somewhere else. So they're just doing it in the destinations they have now. That's fine. I wasn't expecting them to like make one in like, you know, Durham, North Carolina, but okay, you know, that's fine. And then the next thing is that they've got plans to do things with a lot of IP that we're excited about in Kanto and Coco and Zootopia, but also they mentioned Wakanda. Yes, please. I feel like that's part of the opportunity for Disneyland Forward. I'm going to go reverse order here, and we'll call it like snake draft order. Throwing more snake references out here if I can, and start with Desi on this. What are you excited about? Is this great news? Are there any problems? I mean, I see nothing but upside here.
I see upside. Yes, of course. I'm super stoked to see what they're going to do with the parks with all of that money. But I'm sad that we can't have Wakanda because of the stupid Marvel theme park license. I wish there was something they could do to work that out with Universal. And also, I want them to put more money into experiences like the Starcruiser, but we can talk about that later.
Yes, we will definitely talk about that later. Stephanie?
Yeah, I think it's exciting for us Disney park fans, but Wall Street sure didn't like the fact that they're going to be spending a lot more loan money, and the stock price went down again. But I do agree with you, Rob. I don't know why they didn't look ahead and say, okay, we're going to do a only Star Wars park. I think that would have been incredible. And yeah, with you as well, Desi, I agree, because if they could work out something to where they could put Wakanda, you know, into a new park and have Avengers campus down in Florida, that would be great too.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I don't want the exact same thing on both coasts, so I
Right.
get excited about the fact that they can do more stuff, you know, in California. But I do agree it would be nice if Disney would do more things. However, the Universal Spider-Man ride, I mean, come on, that's really good. Before I move on to Kamala, and this one thing I wanted to share also about this is they said this: they wanted to accelerate storytelling, expand their footprint. Advanced commercial, which I'm not really sure what that means, leverage talent and reach new fans. Reach new fans is something that feels like they've been trying to do ever since they started buying Star Wars and Marvel and things like that. But Kamila, how are you feeling about all this kind of stuff, and how much of it's going to actually go to Disneyland and not Disney World?
Well, listen, I'm not going to complain if we do get the Wakanda land or world in Disneyland. That works just fine for me. No, I mean, look, I think investment is good. I think, to be honest, before I can even think about, you know, a fifth gate or a new park, I think there's a lot of opportunity to expand and improve upon existing areas and parks. Animal Kingdom clearly needs some attention. I think Hollywood Studios still needs some more. It just, to me, still feels small and overcrowded and a little bit like a half-day park, especially if you get there at rope drop or early entry. I think, you know, when we think about over at Disneyland, there's a lot of opportunity. I think Disneyland desperately needs some kind of show or omnimover attraction, something that you can sit and do, like a Carousel of Progress or a Monsters Inc. Laugh Factory, instead of just being so many attractions, especially given we don't get shows at the Hyperion all the time. It's kind of hit or miss whether or not something will be there. I also thought it was interesting that the monorail at Disneyland might get some attention and some investment, because I always feel like that monorail, to me, it's a monorail to nowhere. It goes, you know, to Tomorrowland and that one section of downtown Disney, and it just, like, why? Has nothing to do with DCA when it should. I just feel like that monorail should at least take you to Pixar Paradise Pier, all the Disney hotels. the parks. I think it's a waste of time the way it works right now. People use it a little bit. I'm not saying they don't, but I always just look at it kind of in disgust because I think it's a waste of time. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity in the existing parks. I'd like to see them continue with some of the resort upgrades. I think a lot of magic and good things are there, but I think there's clearly some things existing that need work, that need refurbishment, attention. So let's start there and hope for the best.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was looking up while you were talking, because again, for those of you that don't know, Disneyland Forward is a project where Disneyland is trying to get Anaheim, who they've come to disagreements with over and over again, to like everybody to get together and say, look, it's okay for you guys to expand a little bit more, and for Disneyland Resort to become even bigger, especially to grow the size of the park. So, the plan that they have in place is a suggestion that says that they basically are going to move some parking lots and some spaces that they have and create more attractions on the other side. And one of the teases has been sort of Wakanda. I think it's actually drawn into this artwork. So it would be very cool if they could expand those parks. I love them. I think that the overall challenge is they do not have, as Walt always said, the blessing of size. So it would be nice if they could do something else here. Universal doesn't seem to care. This is we're going to build something 3 miles away, and we'll just put you on a bus and take you there. And we're like, okay, that's great.
I just want to say, to add to that, if Disney is thinking about a new park, maybe in a place they haven't thought of, Arizona has a ton of room. We have great weather, and even when it's hot, it's dry heat. And I just want to say this: imagine a Wild Wild West park. I mean, that could be so good. Wild Wild West, Mickey and Minnie. I love it already. Disney, we're here. Arizona.
Well, now they can't do it because you just mentioned it. So now they'd have to give you listen,
like
licensing.
I will not trademark this idea. Okay, I'll give it to you.
Okay, all right, we appreciate it. Let's move on to the 50th anniversary. I don't know if you guys remember that the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World lasted 18 months, as opposed to this 100 years thing is, I don't know, 2 months at EPCOT, but we'll talk about that in a second. It was 18 months, and it ended on the 31st of March of this year, but they decided to keep around the statues, which we thought they would. They made these 30-some-odd statues with our 50 favorite characters, including, I don't know.
Bruni.
Bruni and Joe Gardner, all the ones that really added to the years of Disney. Edna Mode. Yeah. They've had these statues out, and they've had the little 50th logos, but they said, we're going to go ahead and take those things off. And I guess they just went out with like a little putty knife and just popped them off in the middle of the night. But I think part of that is that EPCOT is starting, as we're going to talk about shortly, the 100 Years of Wonder celebration as of last week. So I think that it was time to do that. I like that the statues are staying. I think they're kind of cool. They don't always work the way you think they will. I always see people walk by and just do this with their magic band and try to like I don't know, this is not gonna work, but let me see if it'll work anyway. It's supposed to be you wave at them and they respond to you, and I think it's great that they did it and that they've patched them up here and that they're going to stick around. I kind of thought they were going to maybe paint them because the color of the 100 years is more of a silver and instead of the golden of the 50th. But Stephanie, are you happy these things are staying around, or would you have preferred they just haul them off?
Oh, I think they're fine. I think that they add a little bit of something extra, like you said, for the people to do with their Magic Band Plus that you've already paid $50 for. And, instead of it just buzzing and turning different colors as you enter or exit a ride. So I think that's nice, a feature that they've invested money in, they're going to keep. But, Rob, I hate to break it to you. If, they're not painting my castle back, then they're not going to paint the statues.
Yeah, if you watched our Deep in the Plus on Cinderella, Stephanie got a little salty about the color of the Cinderella castle. So definitely, we'll have somebody work on that for you. But before we go any further, I do want to mention that we have a couple of more super chats here, which is pretty exciting. Is this the right one? Is this the right one? Yes, not to rain on your parade. The $6 billion expansion is a bunch of lies. They're trying to put the lipstick on the pig. That is their financial situation. We'll believe it when when I see actual dates. This is a good point because we most of the stuff that we've heard of already is either what if we did this, or it's, hey, this has been we're in place and we're finally opening it. So, I mean, that is sort of a good point, Jungle Cruiser, and thank you for the super chat. We appreciate you as always. So I hope great things are coming, and through Josh, all things are possible. Let's always remember that. We also have another one. The monorail is more of an attraction than a transportation thing at Disneyland theme parks and things with Johnny. Thank you for that super chat. We appreciate it. Yeah, but I think it could be more. I think, Kamila, is that where you were kind of going with that? It could be more. It is really more of an attraction, and it's one of those things where sometimes I try to feel like, as a Disney person, can I beat the system somehow by using the monorail station that's in Disneyland by the Disneyland Hotel to get into Tomorrowland? I'm like, can I get to where I'm going faster by running to the Esplanade or by getting on here? And then if whatever decision I make is usually the wrong one. Plus, it's weird to sit down on a monorail or like duck in to get inside. I don't know. It's a thing. So. And then one more super chat. I'm a stockholder at $81.25 per share. I'm losing confidence on domestic park growth and movie development. Disney is concentrating on DCL and international parks. I mean, I don't think there's anything untrue about that statement. So am I pronouncing that? What is it? Swansea Searcher? Is that Swansea Searcher? Sorry about that. Thank you for that super chat. I would say, yeah, I mean, I'm a Disney stockholder as well, and I did not pay $81 a share for it, that's for sure. And so, it is very disappointing that that's happening. And obviously, whenever you're a shareholder or you're pitching to your shareholders, you try to paint things in the best light as possible. I worry about things like them selling the company to Apple. I worry about them breaking off like ABC and the rumors that we've seen on stuff like that, because I like the company as it is. I just think it needs to be in a better place, and hopefully some of the things that they're doing in Parks and Resorts, which we've all known, Parks and Resorts is one of those things that's just like the cash cow. They just like beat it to death and take the money. They got money during COVID when they weren't being able to put out movies in the theaters. Disney Plus has kind of fallen that same way. So I agree with you. We love the parks. I have nightmares about a time where Disney World is just closed or it gets sold to somebody else. Universal had that happen with a park that they made at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, called Hard Rock Park, where they made it. It was Hard Rock themed, and it was run by Universal, and then they shut it down after like a half a season, and it went and they sold it to somebody third party, and it was called like Freestyle Music Park, and they didn't have the rights to Led Zeppelin and things like that, so they just painted everything and made different signs, and I thought, oh Lord, let this never happen to Disney. And you got to think it's too big for that to happen. But I mean, that's one of those things. So hopefully this $60 billion is a promise. They're going to take care of business, and I'm hoping that all these things go the right way. And that's the end of my little rant, unless any of you guys have anything to share before we move on. Stephanie, you look like you want to say something.
No, I'm interested to see if Disney would, like you said, be in competition with Universal and pull out a different park, like a smaller park somewhere in Arizona, perhaps.
Jay Ware said Apple doesn't want Disney, so you don't have to worry there. Okay. I mean, there was a time when we thought Disney was going to get taken over, and Michael Eisner came in, and the decade of Disney became a thing, and God bless him for that. I think he gets a bad rap after Disneyland Paris or Euro Disney, but I think, I'm glad that he came in and did what he did, and that's why we have like 20-some resorts and, all that stuff in Florida. So good news there. Let's move on to trams returning. That's more good news, right? And before it was just like, hey, welcome to Disney, take a walk. And now it's like, honestly, I've tried to avoid, I love the Skyliner and the Pop Century. That's my favorite place to stay because I can jump on the Skyliner and get closer at Hollywood Studios and EPCOT to where I need to be easier than anywhere else, mostly because there were no trams. So, I'm going to go to Kamila on this one first. Do you think that this is a game changer, or do you think people are just like, these were never going to come back, we've been working around it?
I think it's helpful. I mean, I think it's a nice amenity, especially considering, you pay in many cases to park at Disney. I usually take the resort buses. I don't know if I've ever taken a tram at Disneyland. I have. They're very efficient. I mean, I will say that. I always see them, and they're very efficient.
Gotcha. Desi?
I am happy for the people who need the tram that it's available. I would love to ride the tram, but they make you fold up your stroller. And for somebody with 2 little kids with a double stroller, it is just so impractical. It is not a good use of my time to pull the kids out of the stroller, take all the stuff out of the stroller, fold the stroller up, get on the tram. Like, it's just faster for me to walk it. I wish they did something for families with large strollers that we could also take advantage of the trams.
I'm trying to think. There's somebody else who has a lot of little kids.
Right.
How do you feel
Yeah,
about all this?
we fold ours. Sometimes we can have 2 double strollers and we still have to fold them. But yes, I agree with Desi. Why can't they put just like a little caboose or something that they can put all the strollers into and lock them in place? I don't know. But I'm glad that it's back.
For Tron?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
I agree. It's like when I had to fold up a stroller, it was always a pain to try to do that, especially if you had the jogging 2-side, the double stroller thing. But I do love the experience of the tram, and it's kind of like that first ride, right? Like, you got the guy who's in the back, and it's like either like some older dude making jokes about, don't forget to remember where your car is, or you're going to have a 2-hour walking tour of the parking lot when you're done tonight. And, EPCOT stands for every person comes out tired. And like, those are things like, they're memories for me, like of like, that tram ride in, and you're excited, and like, this is the first part, and you're just, I don't know. I like that they're back as a convenience. But I think a lot of us have found ways around them at this point, because we were like, that's never going to happen again. So 3.5 years. 3.5 years. I've said this 900 times. Dollywood had them right out of the gate after COVID. So it was like, what are we doing? So I'm glad they're back for everybody's sake. Let's move on to EPCOT 100, because this is weird. September 22nd, they started the celebration of 100 years of Disney that started the celebration on January 1st, but also at Disneyland on January 27th. And now Disneyland was like, we're done. You can have our decorations. You guys have a party. September 22nd it starts, and it ends like November 18th when we start Disney, like the Festival of the Holidays, I guess. Yeah. But the actual anniversary, folks, put it on your calendar, is October 16th. So I don't know. September 22nd seems a little bit random to me, I guess, but it's happening. And one of the things that's happening is there's an Oswald magnet, and I'm going to be there next week. Not specifically for it, but I'm not saying I wouldn't have specifically come down to get my magnet. So, Desi, have you been out? Have you gotten any of the treats, any of the celebrations yet?
Like I said, I had a reservation for today. I was supposed to go. I had planned it all. I was going to go see Moana. I was going to get my magnet. I was going to try all the treats. Didn't get a chance to do that. Would love to do it next weekend, but we'll see if I get a reservation.
Yeah, I heard they're hard to come by.
I'm excited to see the Walt statue whenever that goes up.
Yeah, I don't think Dreamer's Point is in this round of celebration. It's the longest re-unveiling of EPCOT that has ever been. And honestly, I mean, EPCOT's birthday is coming up on the 1st, October 1st. It would have been nice to have all of this stuff open for EPCOT's birthday, but they do have a new beacon show. I'm excited about that. I've not watched the video on this one because I want to see it in person, but there is a new 100 years beacon show. I love when they do that kind of stuff. And Soarin' Over California is coming back. It's back for everybody, which is so funny. It's like, this is a thing that we replaced because we thought there needed to be something new, but we know as a company that people love it and want it back so much that we're bringing it back for a limited time. Stephanie, are you planning vacations so you can be there when it happens?
I actually am. So not specifically for that, but we will be there. So I'm really excited about this. I agree that Soarin' Over California is the better version of this. I do think that they should have it in California more. I think that should just be a rule. And then they switch out as they do randomly with us, they switch that out with the Soarin' Around the World. But we do have 2 theaters, don't we? So why couldn't we play one in one and one in the other?
We have 3.
3!
Yeah.
3!
Concourse A, B, and C. Yeah. So yeah, no, I agree. Or randomize it. It's a screen-based attraction.
Exactly.
You could randomize it. So I don't know. Yeah, I would love it if you had an option, and it would be interesting to see. Maybe that's why they don't do it. It'd be interesting to see if there was like, this is soaring over California, and the line is back to Canada, and then this is walk on for soaring around the world. I don't dislike soaring around the world, but there is something about smelling the oranges and seeing all that other stuff that it didn't make sense before, because at EPCOT it's not California, but now that it now that it's gone, I'm like, remember that? That was great. So here's the magnet. Oswald drawn in the style of the new Mickey Mouse, which I know Desi is not a fan of the new Mickey Mouse, but I think that's great.
Hashtag not my Mickey.
Right, here's some of the treats, including an Oswald. It's like, how do we make that cupcake Oswald? Just throw some chocolate ears on it. We'll be fine. There's meet and greet signs, and this one is the new popcorn bucket, which is not new. It was in California, but it's for the 100 years. Here's the meet and greet signs point to the 100 years Mickey and Minnie. That's pretty exciting too. Kamila, I mean, you got to see some of this stuff at Disneyland already. Does this look like something you would go to Disney or Epcot for?
I mean, no, I wouldn't make a trip for it, but I think it'll be, these are some nice touches for people who will be lucky enough to, be there or get a park pass during this time. I like that there's some things that aren't, here's some things you can buy and merch, but, instead there's, bringing back the Soarin' Over California, there's the Beacon Show, just some of those types of touches are what I appreciate more compared to, some of the merch and some of the treats. I like when it's things that are built in, and it just kind of feels more special for you to visit during that time.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. Again, I get to go next weekend, and so I'm really excited to see all of these new things, including they also for the Food and Wine Festival. This is interesting. I don't know. I would love to know if this was by design, if they had these 4 booths and they were like, hey, you know what? Let's just open all but these 4, and we'll make it an exciting event for the 100 years. Or if they're like, those 4 aren't ready yet, and they're like, you know what? Let's just hold, because we're going to be doing some stuff on the 22nd anyway, and we'll light everybody up then with these 4 new booths. But the other thing that's interesting about these 4 booths that they've added is that it's alliteration. These new global marketplaces for the 100 years it's all alliteration. There's Swirled Showcase. Get it, like World Showcase, only it's Swirled Showcase. It's a joke. Char and Chopped, Bubbles and Brine, and Wine and Wedge. So I don't know. Stephanie, pick one.
Well, I guess we always like ice cream, so let's go with the Swirled Showcase, if I can say it. But I do think that they were, maybe, like you said, they didn't have them ready or something like this, but I don't think that they really planned out what they're going to put into these booths, because they all seem very, shall I say, basic?
Right. Are you allowed to say basic? Okay. I thought the word was going to be random that you were going to use on that one, but the one thing that I do like about Swirled Showcase is they put it in the old Starbucks shop, which was right there when you enter World Showcase, which I've just been thinking, you've set up all these temporary booths, but you've got a permanent building right here that you could put stuff in, and you haven't. Like the last festival, I think, was the Flower and Garden that I went to. There were just like 3 tables sitting in front of this, and it's just like, what are you doing? Why haven't you done something bigger with this? And now, we have Swirled Showcase, and again, I think more is better. That's a good thing. I just thought it was interesting that all of these booths came out after. This late into this thing, because again, November 18th, this thing started in July, right? November 18th is when all of this stuff shuts down. So, Desi, anything here that strikes your fancy?
I mean, I'm probably going to try it all, but it doesn't make sense to me necessarily why it would be opening for the 100 and not be some kind of 100 themed. Like,
Right.
there should be something about 100 or something about the history for it to be, yes, this is opening because it's part of the EPCOT 100, not just here's new booths for the EPCOT 100. They have nothing to do with 100, but here they are.
Are you trying to say that shrimp isn't something like Walt used to eat shrimp, and that's why they decided no, nothing there? There's
Chili,
also
maybe.
there's also for the second anniversary of Space 220, which also opened with the 22nd. There are new beverages at Space 220, new cocktails, and they look very good. I think anytime you can make something smoke like that, I'm gonna want it. I know they have some of that stuff at Oga's and all that, so that's a good thing. Before we move on to this one, Kamila, anything here that excites you, or any other thoughts on these 4 new global marketplaces?
I will say I kind of like that they add some in because it is such a big stretch of time that it's kind of like bringing in some newness after people have maybe had a chance to get around to the other booths. I know so many people who either go to Disney World a lot or even who are local, they'll make it a point to try as many booths as they can. They'll turn it into date nights. And so, when you have something new, it's like, oh, here's a new destination. It's like a new restaurant opening or something. So I don't mind that they kind of, continue to open up some new ones throughout the festival.
Very cool. Let's move on to Shopcot. You like that? Because it's like Epcot. No. So we have an AP shopping event that happened at the Wide World of Sports. Somebody was mentioning, like, do they really need ESPN anymore? Yeah, they do, because it's a great place to put all your shopping, is at the Wide World of Sports. I've actually never been to the Wide World of Sports.
What?
You'll go when you do your Run Disney.
That's
Yes.
right. Yes, you will. Yes,
That
you
is
will.
true. That is happening. You are correct. I keep getting reminded. There's a 10K coming my way. But they had an AP shopping event, and we saw a lot of people, including WDWNT, were there to cover this shopping event. And part of it looked sort of like a rummage sale, and then some of it looked like like it was supposed to be that they were previewing new merchandise, including some Pandora charms. That were, people got a first chance to get them here before they could get them anywhere else. And then also some of the EPCOT reimagined merch, which I'm actually pretty excited about this merch. It's finally already in the store, though, now that the shopping event was done. There's all this different stuff, and I think this is neat looking. Like, I'm not a Spirit jersey guy. I like that logo. I think that looks kind of cool. I think this with all of the, kind of EPCOT icons and logos on it looks pretty cool. I'm hoping this continues. I'm hoping this is just like the first of many, but like looking at it, it is kind of a representation of what EPCOT is, and I don't know. I'm excited about it. Stephanie, any of this stuff that looks good to you, or you're like the exact opposite? You're like, you know what, Rob? I was going to say I don't like any of this.
Well, the Epcot Reimagine has a lot of IP. That's true. But I really like a good deal. You know me. And so I would love to be there at a garage sale for Disney merch. Absolutely. But they don't do it. They don't advertise it. They just said, hey, it's going to happen like next week or something. I can't get a flight that quickly. So yeah, I wish that they would send out a 6 month in advance notice. This is when we're going to do this, because Universal had theirs as well. And that would have been great to go over and do that at the same time. So stock up on, some of the stuff that you like.
Very funny to me that they closed down all the Disney stores because they're like, nobody's going to want to shop for Disney stuff outside of Disney World and places like that. And now they could have shipped it all away. Like when you go to Disney World, there's not very far away the outlet. I assume that you've been. And they take the stuff that you just could have paid full price for, a month ago, and they put it there at a discounted rate. You just have to roll the dice and make sure that it didn't get sold out, whatever it was you were looking for.
Right.
Yeah. Desi, what do you think of the merchandise for the Epcot Reimagine, though?
I mean, I think it's cute. I tried to get in to the ESPN thing to do all of my shopping, and the virtual queue went faster than any Guardians of the Galaxy virtual queue. And I had heard, oh, if you keep refreshing it, throughout the day, maybe they will release some more. No, they never did. I never got in, and I was very upset about it. I tried to go on Thursday, but couldn't get in. Very sad.
I'm sorry. Let's move on to the... Yes, exactly. You know what? That is the thing about everything Disney is. It's like you just freak out trying to get in the queue, whatever it is. It's like, again, I freak out trying to get that Tron virtual queue, and then I get group 2, and then I hate myself because that means I got to be there at rope drop. Let's move on to everybody's favorite future resort, the Polynesian Tower, that is coming at some point. It's actually starting to look a little bit like the artwork, I think. I mean, again, it's a little bit of a reach.
I thought you were going to say Polynesian.
No, nobody's out here saying that. Nobody. But I mean, it is, again, starting to look a little bit more like the artwork with the way the buildings are set up, and obviously these are different points of view on it. But it's we're getting what we were promised. The doors are showing up on there, the balconies are showing up on there. But the one thing that came out this week is the room designs, which these are very crude, these drawings, but they show what a 2-bedroom would look like, and you can check these out on wdwnt.com. There's looks at a 1-bedroom and then also a deluxe studio, which, that's the thing when you go to the Poly Prime, I'm going to call it. That's a bad name. We'll figure out something else. The original Poly has
flagship Poly.
I like it. Closer. But they have the deluxe studios, and then they have the big old honking $1 billion a night, bungalows. Exactly. Thank you. And there's no 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. At least in this particular case, you'll be able to have a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, but I'm not really sure it's gonna be the same. It's gonna be kind of like when you're a little kid and you get to stay at the Contemporary, but you really get to stay in the garden wing of the Contemporary, and you're like, I wanted to be in the A-frame, right? We've all been there. We've all been there. So let me throw this to Stephanie, because I know, again, that you are DVC, and so when you're looking at this, are you excited about these room configurations for you and your family, or are you like, nah? Okay, so it looks like a high-rise in Destin, just a giant white condo building. I don't like the design. I think it's an eyesore. However, I will give Disney credit for this one and only point. They are giving us an additional bathroom. And when you have a large family, you're trying to fit everybody into one space, that makes the world of difference. And trust me, I've stayed at Riviera and, Wilderness Lodge and Animal Kingdom and all these other places. But the two that have like in a 1-bedroom situation, you actually have 2 full bathrooms. It's going to be at Bay Lake Tower and at Kidani Village. And I prefer those for that reason. So I do think I will throw them a bone, and I think that they're going back to that design or a similar design to where they're having that additional bathroom, and that makes a world of difference. A world of difference. That sounds like a Disney thing. It's a world of difference. I'm looking at the chat. Poly Gangnam style. Okay. Holiday Inn Poly style. Yes. I love this. Thank you. More of this, please, in the chat. I appreciate you guys playing along there. How soon till there is documented flooding? Okay. But again, But the thing is, though, again, that's one of the first challenge of DVC, the first rule of Fight Club. Now, the first challenge of DVC is getting a place in general, because there are so many points in the system, and everybody bought Alani but uses all their points at Old Key West. It's hard to get into, that unless you schedule 7 to 11 months out. It's hard to get in sometimes. So, like, I was just waitlisted for this next coming week for like months. Didn't get in. Sometimes that to me is the bigger challenge. I love the concept of DVC. Financially, it worked out for my family long-term DVC, but and we've had DVC conversations on ParksCenter before, but I would say that that's usually the challenge. But I love the one bedroom option sometimes, and it would be nice if they had that, and so that'll be cool. But you were just saying from the outside it looks horrible. I'm gonna use the same thing that I would tell my kids when they wanted the blue bucket. Is like, if you want to ride in the blue Skyliner bucket, when you're inside, you don't see Encanto. Sorry, it's only on the outside, right? So if you have that on the inside, when you're looking out your window, you get to see the real Poly and the real Grand Floridian and all those other things,
Yes.
and you don't see where you are. So I think it actually works out in your favor if you're staying there. I'm just throwing that out there, because if you're in the Poly looking over at that, then you're sad.
Oh, poor you.
No,
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's probably way too brutal for that. But anyway, let's wrap this up. The Avengers shop. I only put this on here because I don't know if you guys know this. I like merch, but also because if you've been to Disney California Adventure, when it comes to like the Avengers stuff, you would have expected there to be more stuff in Avengers Campus, but it's kind of like there wasn't really anything. Kind of like Toy Story Land when they like opened it up and there wasn't, a Jesse's. There was just like the camper for you to buy stuff. So everybody, there was Web Slingers, and that was all dedicated stuff. But now they've opened up a new gift shop in the place that should have been the exit to the e-ticket that doesn't exist yet. And they moved it over from where it was at the Hollywood backlot over here. So it's now open. If you guys are headed out to Avengers Campus at some point, you can see that they've got all of these new things in here that are apparently basically things we've already had. I noticed that there was like all the Infinity Stones are available, and that we had a whole article about that. And I was like, I remember when those opened up at Cosmic Rewind's gift shop, they had all of the Infinity Stones. So I'm just real quick, I'm going to ask Desi, have you looked at any of this stuff? Does this look exciting to you? I know you don't get out there too much.
I haven't had a chance to get out or to look much at it, but unless it's Loki or WandaVision themed, I'm probably not interested.
I see Loki's scepter, but again, that's part of those part of the stones that they've got there. So yeah, I mean, again, it makes sense to be here instead of over at the Hollywood backlot, which is where they had put it before. I like that it's here now and that it's open, and basically I think they just took all that stuff and moved it here, and it looks a little bit more well themed to the area. So I'm a fan of that. Let's get on to what Desi really wants to talk about before we close this out, because Disneyland has a couple of announcements that they've made about shows. One of them is that Magic Happens, Kamila, is going to be wrapping up before the Christmas parade happens. This is the first time I think they've had to do that, right? Because it came back, it came in 2020 in March or whatever, right before COVID. Then it came back this year in like March, April. And so this is the first time it's had to leave for Christmas. I'm going to miss it. I love that parade.
I love that parade. For me, it is a do not miss. I don't care if I'm on the Incredicoaster, and I will walk all the way from there over to Disneyland to get there in time to see it. It's not the longest parade, but it's so lovely. It just puts you in a good mood. The floats are incredible, and I having just seen Magic Happens like a week before, and then seeing the Booty You parade. I don't know. It's so well done. It feels new. It feels fresh. Absolutely, if you have a chance to see it, don't miss it. And my only thing is, it better come back. Like, I understand it has to go away for now. That's what's always tricky about the holiday season, is the changeover and the seasonal items. And so if this is your once in a lifetime trip, you just have to be mindful of that. But because there's all this talk about, will Wondrous Journeys come back? Will World of Color 1 come back? Disney, do not play with us. You better bring this back. Don't do it.
You mentioned World of Color 1. I always thought that World of Color was my favorite show until I saw Fantasmic again at Disneyland, and their version of Fantasmic was, I think, is probably my favorite show. There were a lot of good shows. I love Happily Ever After, but then I went back to World of Color. I was like, this one, the original Fantasmic was better than the World of Color. I thought World of Color 1, I love. Like, please keep it. That one where they do the whole on your left thing and Cap comes out, and I'm like, just like, I'm not crying, you're crying. This is a very, like, I'm tied into this show. I love this one. I hope the rumor is that this is the one that comes back, World of Color 1. So I'm excited to see that happen. But that Todrick Hall, Whew, that Todrick Hall song from Magic Happens, that one slaps. That is my favorite. That's my anthem. This is my anthem. That's what I came for. But there's also rumor of a new Disneyland experience where they're going to be doing some inline skating. I feel like maybe when I saw this, there was somebody who wanted to have a conversation about some inline skating.
I mean, is there any other inline skating movie
IP
from the Disney IP? No, this has to be Brink themed. I'm convinced. I'm looking forward to my Brink show. I will fly to California twice a year if they have a Brink show.
It's not going to happen. Eric Von Detten is not going to be there opening day for this one. No, there was a show called Tarzan Rocks that also had inline skaters. I don't think that had anything to do with Brink, but when I saw this, I think the first time I saw it was when Desi like popped it into our chat and was like, "Oh, Brink!" It's like, no, this is not going to be. This is
definitely Brink.
But Stephanie, what are they doing? We got inline skating in Disneyland. We got BMX bikes in Paris. Like, make it make sense.
I don't know. Where's Tony Hawk going to show up? Animal Kingdom? I'm not sure. But they're trying to put something together, I guess, for the is it Gen Z? Is that the ones that are wanting this to come back? I'm not sure.
I don't know, but all I know is I don't like this. I mean, I don't know. It seems a little silly. I'm going to throw this to Kamila for one last thought before we move on from all the parks news. Anything you can tell me?
I mean, I'm thinking it's got to be for some kind of parade. And I don't know why, but for some reason, roller skates is giving me Goofy movie vibes. Maybe some Max, maybe some Roxanne, maybe some Powerline. I mean, I would love that.
Okay. That's fair. I was going to say we'd go to commercial break, but we're running a little bit low on time, and I want to keep everybody to the 90 minutes that we have. So we're going to talk about the Starcruiser. The Starcruiser's last voyage is this Friday. It's Thursday, right? The 28th. That's the last day. So the people will be stepping off the Starcruiser on the 30th. I got to tell you, though, again, if you've not been on the Starcruiser, there are going to be a lot of spoilers we're going to cover here that we've never talked about before because we didn't want to spoil anything. But unless you're on these next three excursions, I mean, it's gone. It's going to be gone. So I don't think you guys have anything to worry about on that. We did a poll when we first found out the Starcruiser was closed and asked people why they didn't go. And I think for the most part, it was people were like money. What I want to know from anybody in the chat who wants to participate, again, pound 1 through pound 7, what will the Starcruiser become? That's the mystery. Like, they did not tell us that at Destination D23. Beautiful Josh Damaro did say at one point that there would be something coming, but he didn't say what that could be. Now, that could be, I've put a couple here things here, like a scaled-down version of what's there, which, again, as we talk about it, may be a little bit disappointing, but at least would give more people an opportunity to do it. A la carte is something that has come up as an opportunity before, like, hey, let's send people from Batu over there to do a dinner and bring them back. Or also maybe let people stay in the hotel or not. So would it have a new theme? Maybe people are like, you know, maybe there's something more. I can't think of anything more mainstream than the Star Wars, but okay, that could be a thing. Would they make it just a hotel? Shades of green, but silver? Could be. I don't know, but it could be just a hotel. Somebody said this in the chat, and so I just figured I'd throw it in. Spirit Halloween, sure, why not? That's always the joke that comes immediately. And then demolition. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people have like said, nah, that's not going to happen. They wouldn't demolish that building. And those of us who have been in it would say probably not. But they demolished some very expensive barges because people didn't like them. So I wouldn't put it past them if it's the right thing to do for that space of land. Because while Josh did say there are 1,000 acres available for them to build on, there's not a ton of space. If you look at a map of the Hollywood Studios footprint, there's not a lot of space there, and I think that everything there is a premium. So I think it is a possibility. Or pound 7 is something new. So if you guys are in chat, Let us know what you think. And I'm actually looking that people are doing pound, and I'm not seeing anything happening. So we'll figure that one out. But I do want to talk a little bit about the experiences, and I've broken it down into a couple of different things that I felt like we should talk about. One is the boarding. The boarding of this thing, everybody's nodding their heads. Coming onto it, the boarding process is so cool. It's like, I tried to get no spoilers, so I was very ill prepared in a way because I didn't want to have any spoilers. But as we were approaching, I was just like, I'm excited. I'm a little bit nervous. What's going to happen? I don't want to miss anything. I had like my phone out the whole time, which I probably shouldn't have. I tried to stay in the moment at the same time. I thought the boarding process was amazing. I think Kamila was responsible. I know she was responsible for me and for Desi being on this thing, so thank you for that. But let's start with you. Was the boarding process what you thought it would be? Was it magical?
Yeah, I mean, I was beyond impressed. And I feel like this was a side of Disney that I just don't know that I've seen. And I was nervous about the boarding process because I feel like they really just don't give you a lot of information about what it's going to be. And I can remember even calling and talking to the Starcruiser cast members. In preparation for some of the first clients that I had heading to the Starcruiser voyage. And they were like, oh yeah, just, put it in your GPS and show up. And I was like, yes, but what happens? Like, what's the process? And really, they were very mum to me every time I would try to ask. And so, you show up, and I just feel like, at least for Desi and I, because we were lucky enough to be together for our boarding process. And Desi, I'd be curious if you agree, but I feel like from the moment we got to the first security guard,
Yes.
which was partially a sigh of relief because we got a little lost. My GPS was not reliable, so we made a circle at first. But I felt like from the moment we got there, it like just the magic began. And I mean, just our first gate member was amazing.
Yes,
Desi, I don't
he
know
was
if you.
so good.
All right. Well, I'll throw it to Desi next, since you guys were like we're a pair here. Hold on a second.
So we showed up. We wanted to get there like an hour early. We wound up only getting there half an hour early. But we showed up, and the security guard, asks for our names and asks if we're there to celebrate anything. And we kind of look at each other like, I don't know. So I just said, girls' weekend. And you should have seen him. He was so funny. He like gets on, he's like, oh yeah, they're here. Just want to make sure everyone's aware. Oh my goodness.
And Desi tried to say bright suns, like to be nice to him. And he was like, oh no, that's not what we say. And he was like, we say good journey.
We say good journey.
Oh my
here.
gosh.
He was so good. And they had like a little droid there who was nervous because I was wearing a first order hat when I arrived. It was just so much fun from the moment we got there. Like Kamila said, just even the first security guard, and then you walk in, and they have cold towels waiting for you when you're waiting in line, and I mean, it was just such a lovely experience.
I was just saying, it's like a valet process. So like you can't park your car. They have you wait until they have someone ready to come talk to you. And like, it just felt like concierge service from the moment you arrived to like, waiting outside to be able to get in. You wouldn't think of as like the most pleasant experience, but the way they did it was wonderful.
Yeah, and they had the person there taking your picture, and like you said, it was valet. And I will always avoid valet. I always will, just because it's like, I don't know how much to tip them, and I'm gonna go ahead and park my car where I know I can get it when I'm ready to leave. Like, you would think maybe I was looking for like an escape somehow. By the way, the poll should be fixed, so please, y'all, just go ahead and let us know what you think about what the future is. I put #1, and somebody said, "What do you know?" I don't really know anything. I was just checking. I would say though that when we were standing out there, it did feel that way. Stephanie, your thoughts?
So I didn't have my own car like you ladies did. We stayed at Kidani for 4 nights beforehand. And so the night before, we had a slip under our door that said, we know that you are about to embark upon your journey of the Starcruiser. If you have any questions, please call this number. But you can get a ride to there if you just go down and talk to concierge. So I did, and the concierge at Kidani had no idea really what was going on either. So you're right, Kamila, they kept it kind of under wraps. But I guess we were the first people that this in particular cast member had to do. So she called the number for me, and it turns out that you do have a mirrors certificate. So if you don't use it because you take your own car, but we were able to use it from Kidani over to the Starcruiser, and then again at our exit, our disembarkation, to our flight at the Orlando airport. So that really worked out well. But they did try to keep it under wraps for sure.
And I will just say that I didn't find that out until I left, because when I asked them, like, hey, I have to catch a flight, and I actually had to leave at 4 a.m. on the disembarkation day. And so I was so nervous. I was like, is anyone going to be there? Am I going to be able to get off this thing? And that's when I found out. She's like, oh, yeah, it's complimentary ride to the airport. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing. But I was at Animal Kingdom the night before as well, Stephanie, and I did not get a slip under my door. So rude, Disney.
You
but
got me.
okay.
Oh no.
That's right. I got something better. I got something better.
Yes.
Desi was like, we gotta go.
I did go back in
showed up
December, and you guys went recently, right?
last weekend. Yeah. So I showed up blasting the Imperial March with my first order hat on, waiting for Kamila at the front of Animal Kingdom.
Awesome.
But I also just want to say, like, about the boarding process, what I was so impressed and shocked by is, you know, you get in this line, and like, we were still early, I think it's fair to say, Desi, when we arrived. So we were like close to the fan, which was nice. But you get in there, and like you said, Rob, they take your photo in front of the Starcruiser sign, which is really fun. And then they had people walking around with little mini waters and cold towels and frozen grapes, and it was just like these little touches, and I was like, who is this, Disney? Love that.
We didn't get frozen grapes in December. Come on. But you are waiting. You're basically in a TSA style line, because you're waiting to go through security, because they do have to scan all of your bags, everything like that. And then we had to wait again in the hallway, basically, before we got to go into our quote unquote pre-show type of area, before you actually go up to the Starcruiser, as they say. So we did have quite a few stops, and I think that we were one of the later boardings for some reason. We had like a 1 o'clock or later or something like that. So I wish that we had an earlier time, just to be able to put things away and enjoy our space a little bit more.
I drove in, and so this is the first thing I saw, and the first thing I thought was, you couldn't do better than 2 shipping cartons to direct me. And then, yeah, right. And then as we turned in, there was this huge monolith right outside of the gate. This is what it looks like on the map. And then you get this as your entrance to the Starcruiser, or the outside, and this is where they take your car. But we had the guard gate, and we got there, and the guy asked us if we had anything, and it was like, anything sharp, anything this, and then it started being in story, any blasters, anything that a scoundrel would have with them, and that kind of a thing. And I'm like, okay, I see you. This is fun. Yep, it's like, we're excited we get here. So we get up, and we did that, and got our picture taken over here, and then went inside. But I was just, again, I didn't know everything about it, because I've only learned as much as I needed to for ParksCenter, really, because I was like, someday I will do this. And then when it was closing, I was like, oh my gosh, Kamila, help. And then she made it happen, and I went in July. And it was, the boarding process was, it was that Disney magic. It was, you get all the feels when you're coming on board, and you get up to the ship, and it opens up, and you're in the atrium. And we've seen tons of pictures of the atrium, but until you're in the atrium, you don't really get it. And so that's why I hope that one of these things that we're talking about on the side here, an a la carte sort of a thing could happen, so that more people could go. That would be great, that more people could go to that. But I didn't look into hardly anything when I was coming on, because I wanted to have that experience. But I think that was kind of a downside for me sometimes, because there were probably some things that I missed along the way. Kamila and Desi nodding their head. Yep, you sure did. But it was still, I mean, it's still an amazing experience. And that's the thing, is it was so expensive. And that's the thing that everybody said. It's so expensive. I could do 2 cruises on DCL with this, or I could do, I could stay a week at Disney World in the Grand Floridian or whatever. And I mean, maybe. But it's one of those things where it's so expensive. And then you get there and you're like, oh, okay. I get it. Like, I don't know how you could have done this any cheaper the way that you were doing this, at the level you were doing it, because everything is like, I totally get everything that you guys were doing here. So let's move on to what? Go ahead.
You walk into the atrium and they have 3 different kinds of water for you to choose from, just like the little spouts. Like, that was so cool. Yeah.
The pre-show thing that Stephanie was talking about is this room in here where you haven't boarded yet, and you watch this kind of a boarding movie where they talk to you about, like, hey, if things are in show, you need to do this. If things go badly in real life, you do this. And so it was really funny that we were actually at the muster drill or whatever, and one of the characters asked my wife, do you know what to do if there's an emergency? She goes, a real emergency or a fake emergency?
Oh no!
And he just like stared at her, and she goes, we have to come here. And he goes, yes, that's correct. And so it's like, okay. I mean, we were kind of like, it was like, where are you from? Raleigh? Oh, I haven't heard of Raleigh. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Coruscant? That's what I meant to say. We're from Coruscant. Like, I'm catching up.
I thought I was going to be the crazy one. I thought I was going to have like elaborate outfits and have a backstory. And I realized, no, compared to pretty much everyone else that we met, no, I was tame. We met Twi'leks. We met a guy in a full Cad Bane costume, blue face and everything. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was crazy. And everybody had full backstories. And then I was like, man, I did not put enough effort into mine.
I just say my husband refused to wear, I bought costumes for the whole family, right? Just things to wear. And it was like this. It wasn't something cute. Like, he didn't have a cape or anything, but he refused to dress up the first day. And then by that evening, he was like, yeah, where is it? Like, I look weird in my polo shirt.
Yeah.
It really was like, people in regular clothes stood out. Like, what are you wearing?
Yeah, I actually have right here a picture, if I can show it, Stephanie, of your husband in his polo shirt. Yeah, he doesn't really look like he's in theme there, does he?
Nope.
But what's interesting, Rob, like, to your point about like kind of the ways that you had to get caught up, one of the things I noticed about when Desi and I arrived is one of the first cast members that greeted us at Desi's car, she was like, hi, I'm this name, I'm from the planet, I think she said Naboo. And so right away it was like, even the cast members who were kind of like more on the service side of things were trying to kind of like show you the way and help get you in character from the first moment. And I just noticed that throughout, like, you'd be talking to someone, your server at dinner, the housekeeping staff that you would just run into, like, everyone was in character at all times. And it really felt like you were somewhere else, with one exception. And I'll wait for if we talk about this.
Okay. So I'm looking through the chat, and I think this is Kath said, we met so many other passengers who had done multiple voyages and need to try all the different storylines.
Yes.
There were some people that I agree, like, kind of like you're saying there in the chat, like Desi was saying, that I was like, some people there, and there was a couple there who had jean jackets, and they were having the cast members sign the jean jackets, and I'm like, you've been here a lot. There were some people who were crying at like the ending ceremonies, and it's like, okay, you've been here too, because there's an emotional attachment to it. But these are people who not people who were like, filthy rich. These were people who were like 8 people in a room or whatever. I mean, 5 people in a room, just so that they could have this experience over and over again.
No,
So
I completely agree with that. I mean, having so many children as I have, and they were all doing their own thing. So one of the, you're talking about the
Oh.
atrium and how great that is whenever you come in. Well, they get their own data pads, which are just, not connected iPhones. And that's the first time they've ever had a phone to themselves. So they were overjoyed with that. Anyway, I was standing there looking around. I'm going, we're the only people in here. This is amazing. We were literally the only people standing in the atrium at that point, and as they're connecting it. But that's right, because they got to select their own story. And so the only downside is that I didn't really get to do my story, but I followed them around so much that I saw all the different storylines. And you did have to have at least 4 or 5 people to complete that, because there were different things that would happen depending on what you chose.
yeah. Let me share some more stuff from the chat. Care Bear said it's a very immersive and expensive LARP session. When I showed this commercial to the trailer for it to my wife and daughter, my daughter was like, "It looks like LARPing in space. No, thank you." Which again, I get it, but it's really as much as you wanted to put into it, which
Right.
I don't know that you could necessarily feel that way from the outside, but once you get there, you're like, I can sit in the background and just watch all this unfold, and it's still an amazing trip. Or if you step up and start talking to the characters, then you get a little bit more into it. Or you bring up your data pad and you run around the ship and you do all the, all the missions. Like, it was as immersive as you wanted it to be. But even without, the experience was kind of amazing, and kind of like, Stephanie's husband at some point, he's like, no, give me my stuff. Let me get in on this. Let me be a part of it. Let me jump around to the facility, because we're talking about, like, would they demolish this thing? And I think everybody's like, no, don't, because the amenities inside, again, we're part of that, Kamala, like we were talking about, like, I get the price. I get why this is so expensive. You guys have probably seen the rooms, but this was the room we had. But, like, just everything about this, the dispensers on the wall to, like, the faucets, the mirror, everything is very custom. And the way that it's set up, the way the doors are, like, slide in and out. The room itself, you had the one screen that was really your TV that was on the left, and then you had the portal that was at the end that was showing you, like, part of what was going on with the story, and then you had your pad that had your in-room droid, D309. So all of that stuff, in the room being specialty. And of course, I'm an idiot and I take pictures of everything, including the remote. Like, the remote control too. I'm going, are you freaking kidding me with this remote control? Like, every single piece of the room. I mean, again, we've seen pictures. We've seen so many pictures. Tom went on 3 cruises and did, honest reviews and all that kind of stuff, and we've all seen pictures. But Stephanie, when you actually walked into the room, were you still kind of amazed?
I was overwhelmed. It was great. I really fully, as you're walking down the hallway even, I don't know if you have a picture of the hallway, but I said something to one of the people that with me, not even in my party, but just in the elevator with me. I said, is it just me, or does it really feel like you're moving? It was disorienting almost. You're in a stationary building, but you're like, maybe I am flying through space. No, they did a fantastic job. We had to get one of the bigger suites because of so many people that we had, and it was like the single room, but plus the one bedrooms, and so it was spread out and it was phenomenal. I wish that we could have stayed longer, honestly.
Did I take a picture of the hallway? Come on.
Exactly.
Did I
so
take a picture
well
of the hallway?
done.
How many did you want? Of course I did. But yeah, everything about it. The atrium was amazing, and whoever designed these things put so much care into every single thing about the spaces you would hold in, the spaces you would meet in, the spaces that you would be in, the process of you getting to, to Batu and coming back, all of those things. The facility itself was just well thought out. The entertainment spaces like the atrium and the bridge, where they had multiple purposes and there was a reason for everything while you were in there, and it still felt Star Wars, and that was really the cool factor of it.
The mechanic room, the mechanical room, and then the cargo hold bay. My son, literally, he would wake up at 6 a.m. He'd be like, I'm going to go down to the mechanic room. I'll see you down there.
That is so cute.
And just go,
Did
and just
he
pull
do the
levers.
Sammy
Pull levers.
storyline?
Oh, 100%. You'll see a picture. Yes.
So let me talk a little bit about when you first come in on the cruise. There is a Crown of Corellia is the room where you eat all of your food. And you would think, okay, when you go on a ship like a Disney cruise line like the Fantasy, you have the nice places where you eat, and then you have like sort of the buffet mess halls where you eat. And in this particular case, it's all in the Crown of Corellia, and it all feels appropriate. Whether you're doing the buffet or whether you're doing the nice meals, it's the lighting. It's again, they just such good use of the spaces on this. So the Crown of Corellia room, when we first walked in, here's what it looked like, and everybody was just kind of there, and some people were dressed up, and some people not yet. But once we got in there, one of the things that just floored me, and I don't know if you guys got into this or not, was the way that the food was. Like, you get this tray, and the tray has these slide compartments on it that are custom made. It's just like, I feel like the John Hammond thing, like they spared no expense. And then each of the dishes that you would get is shaped like the tray, so that you would take the food and you would put it in there. Like little things like that that I never even thought about.
And it wouldn't slide around.
Right. And it's like, okay, I can only get as much as will fit on this tray, but let me come back and get another one. Like the tip yip, yes, please. And this was what we looked like when we got back to the table. And you can see I cheated a little bit, started stacking my stuff one on top of the other here. So I don't know. There's little things like that that I thought was like, again, they were great. Desi, I can see you just nodding your head like it's coming off.
I had heard that the food was like the low point of the experience. And I went on, and I loved almost everything I had. So I don't know if maybe just like I like kind of weirder foods, but like at lunch that first day, I got what looked like a pizza, and I put it in my mouth. I'm like, oh my god, this is Sanaa. This isn't pizza. It's like naan bread with one of those spicy sauces on top, and it was incredible. And just the way everything was presented was so beautiful and thoughtful, and it immediately made me feel like I am in Star Wars. Just sitting down, eating this food, this feels Star Warsy.
And speaking of food, and not to, because I know, Rob, you're like kind of like talking about the first part, but like also the food in the bar, what is it, the Starliner Lounge?
The Starlight.
Starlight, thank you.
Sublight.
The food there was included. So if you sat down and you ordered drinks, they would also bring out a food menu, and they'd be like, oh, here, you can order, and it's all included. And we got like one of the cheese dishes or trays, and like it had this, what was it, Desi, like dry ice that created that effect of
yes.
Like air or something, but like, and it was so like good.
Very smoky. Yeah. Oh,
yes,
so good.
Smoky.
Yeah. I think that that they spared no expense. Every bit of it, I was like, okay, I get it. I get why. Like from the snacks in the atrium too. Like there were snacks that were sitting there waiting for you in the atrium, whether it was like fruit or mixed nuts or like the little cookies. Like the
cookies
with
the Chandra Starline logo on it. Oh,
let me just tell you though, yeah, that was great. I do want to share this picture. Freaking adorable, Desi. You like
perfect fit.
Yeah, in your little thing.
I was super comfortable too.
Did you? Yeah, that was the thing. I was like, is that going to be comfortable? Those little compartments. And again, I think they thought of kind of everything on that. It was a little snug, but it was not in a bad way. I mean, I didn't see any problem with any of that.
It wasn't snug for me, but I'm like 5 feet tall, so it's fine.
There's a lot of show stuff that happens in the atrium, and like I said, again, it was all set up perfectly that you can see everything, you can experience everything. They take you here, take you there, all the things. So the facility, again, I just want to talk about the facility in general, the rooms, the hallways, the common spaces, the transport to Batuu. What was the environmental room? What was that? That was hilarious.
Oh,
I love that actually.
Climate control or
the climate simulator.
Climate simulator.
Yes. So, Stephanie, talk about the climate simulator, because for anybody who doesn't know, this was freaking hilarious.
Okay, so it has a fountain, if I remember correctly, and then it has like a wall of planters, and it has these different plants in them, and you can scan your data pad to talk, to learn about the different foliage and what have you. Right. Okay. But then I don't know if did any of you do the Path of the Jedi? Am I gonna spoiler alert here?
What do you mean spoil? We can't go. It's
Okay,
over.
so
We can't.
okay, so my daughters got to do this. One of the Saja took them independently, mind you. So it's just the two of them, myself and my husband, and we're watching this happen. And those rocks that are in the formation, like the native Alaskan, well, I remember what the name of them are, but they would stack rocks. And yes, right there. So those, my daughters moved with the force. They did.
That's kind of awesome. So, but to me, the part that's hilarious about this is they're like, we're on our way to Batu, and we want to simulate the climate for you so you know what it's like. And so they open up the door into this simulator, but it's just outside. That's all it is. It's perfect. It's like hilarious. It's like you walk out and that's the thing. Our Lieutenant Croy was like doing a bit by there and walked in and he was like, "Oh Lord, is that what it's like on Batu? Oh my gosh, why would you want to do that?" And then he looks over this kid and he goes, "You go out there and feel how bad that looks." And then the kid walks outside and he hits the door button close and he looks at the other guy there and goes, "How do I lock this door?" Like, I mean, it was so funny. But I just thought that was a funny bit, this climate simulator, and all it is outdoors. It's just outside. It's simulating the current Batu environment.
Well, they probably had to have something to where if someone had claustrophobia or if they got disoriented like myself and they needed to be able to go outside and be like, yes, we are grounded. We are in gravity here.
Yeah. I see that.
I took the first order path. I went in and knocked down a whole bunch of the rocks.
Oh no!
What a bully! This is that Cad Bane outfit you were talking about, and good Lord,
yes.
that is amazing.
It was so hard to figure out on the first day who was a cast member and who was a passenger. That is how good some of these people were.
There was somebody dressed up as Cobb from Mandalorian, and he looked just freaking like him. And I was like, "Wow, you dude, yeah, exactly."
I mean, we had George Lucas on ours.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So let's talk about casting again. We're running over, and I'm sorry about that. But just again, this is our goodbye to the Starcruiser. The cast, the crew, and the characters. The characters. There were more than I thought there would be. You know, we knew about the captain. Like, the captain's one we talked about ad nauseum, the captain, and she was great, Kevin. And then there was
Lincoln Mock.
Yeah, who was your cruise director, who was more than you thought she was.
Yes.
Because she was, working with the resistance the entire time. I guess it's okay to out her now, that she was working with the resistance the entire time. The Lieutenant Croy was the captain, or the order. Was from the First Order, who would come on the ship to monitor and make sure there was no resistance activity going on. The characters were like, "No, that's not Sammy. This is Sammy. No, that's not Croy. This is Croy," because they all felt like they were ours, right? Like that, like yes. They were the one that we knew as like Lieutenant Croy, or and the guy who was our Lieutenant Croy was from the Adventurers Club, and he was also had done some other stuff like that, and he was freaking amazing. But these people are on the entire time that they're there. And so, I mean, it's just so good. And then there are two characters that are not human, I guess. One of them I bought the action figure from, who is D309, who's your in-room, like, droid assistant, which, again, she was so amazing. And it was like, I know that when Tom went on, he was talking about how sad it was to say goodbye to D309, and it was like, oh, like when she tells you, like, the final goodbyes, and would you like me to tell you a story? Yes, I want you to tell me.
Did you have her tell you a story?
I did.
I wanted to go take a shower. Oh, she was telling everybody else the story, and I came out and I'm like, she's still telling this story.
I listened to her. Really, I would listen to her all day. Yes. And the other one is SK, who was the droid who was in there, and SK620, and I just, again, you just fall. They do such a good job with those characters, and you kind of fall in love with them. Who was the guy who was Gaia's manager? What was his name?
Rafe.
Our Rafe, I swear, must have been the M-Park Gaston. The dude had like the hair, the guns, suave. Like he was like, yeah. I mean, he'd give Josh Damar a run for his money. He was that guy. But yeah,
our Wraith looked like Star-Lord. Like he could have been Star-Lord. He was definitely a better Star-Lord than whoever I met when he was meeting with Baby Groot.
Yeah.
I was talking with a guy who has been on multiple cruises, and like, oh, is it weird to see the different actors playing the different roles? And he said it's kind of like living in the multiverse, where it's kind of a similar story, but not. And I thought that was a really good analogy.
You know, when you look at all of the opportunities that you had on board, whether you were going to do like sabak, or whether you're going to do lightsaber, or you're going to do bridge training, or all those things, it looked like there's not enough to keep me busy. And then at the end, you're like, I needed more time.
I did not do everything.
Yes. Yeah, we were running around like crazy.
So the Batu excursion, so the storylines were all different, and you had your data pad, which was basically your cell phone, and they made you have a My Disney Experience account. And Kamila would tell you, my wife didn't have one, and she kept emailing me going, get your wife a My Disney account. Does she have one?
Ignore me.
She was like, get her one. I was like, fine, I'll get her one. And so then my wife was all into it. She was like, oh, I got a message from Sammy. I got to go. And so it was just like, that was the way they did that. And somebody had said here that somebody said in the chat, they should have not done this concierge experience. They should have done an e-ticket attraction in the land instead of doing this concierge experience. There is definitely some stuff that they saved for this, like the dinner theater feeling, the dinner show with Gaia, like the data pad stuff, the interactivity of the play experience that should have been with the parks, that they went, hold up, let's put this on the concierge level, cruise ship, that should have been there. And so I don't know, what were you gonna say?
So I will say this, for me, the one place where the experience maybe got a tad challenging, or kind of you came back to earth a little bit, literally, was on the Batu excursion. And I will say, I love the way you disembark. It feels like you're literally kind of in like a little travel pod or something going to the planet Batu. You have to go through these little, it almost feels like tunnels, but really you're just kind of, walking through a path to get there. They had water in a bucket available, like the special Batu water that you could just grab as much as you wanted. Like, just those are the kinds of things that will always get me. But I will say where I think things yes, the transportation. And then right before that, you got your pin, you had your like little orientation. I could not say enough about that. But I will say, I felt like where things started to fall apart just a tad bit is when you were actually on Batu. And I think the reason why is, at least to me, it was hard to figure out exactly what to do there. And to some extent, you needed to be able to interact with cast members, and, you might have to go on a mission that is, part of going on Rise of Resistance or whatever. And you could tell it was a little bit tricky for cast members to kind of give us the in-character experience, but also try to manage the queue for Smuggler's Run. And so to me, that's where things started to fall apart a little bit. And I also just felt like there were times on the planet Batu while I was visiting that I just wasn't sure like what to do. And you just kind of like missed your little cocoon of being on the Starcruiser, surrounded by, wonderful cat. Like you kind of were brought back down to earth, or Batu, quite literally, I guess.
I completely agree with you, Kamila, and I made the mistake of saying, no, we're doing Hollywood Studios. And I should have just said, no, we're just staying at Batu, because that's all my kids wanted to do. They just wanted to scan everything with their data pad, and get back to the ship, because there were things happening on the ship as well. So we had lightsaber training for the Lothcats, which were the little kids that were not able to do the big lightsaber training on the day before. So we had that in the morning, and so we didn't even get off of the ship very early. We only had half a day really. And then my son, he did the Sammy storyline, and so he said, I've got to get back because they're releasing SK. We've got to go release SK at 2 p.m., Mom. I'm like, okay, fine. And so, you know, you really don't want to, and I will say one more thing. I think that my theory got blown. Now, I'm going to ask you guys, did you stay in costume? Because I can tell you, pretty much our entire voyage changed back into regular park clothes, got onto the transport, went into Batu, and then came back and put their costumes back on.
No, I mean, mine's very generic. Yeah,
True.
Mine's very generic.
Yes.
I stayed in that. So is this you in costume with a baby fighting lightsabers? Like,
yeah, that was the Lothcat training. And see, I have my dark side T-shirt on there, Desi.
Actually, the guy who dressed up as Cad Bane went to Batu dressed like that, and he got away with it because you could go in costume as long as you only had half of your face painted. So he got away with it because underneath the glasses and the hat, his face was not painted. So he literally went into Batu full costume.
So
I also got a special. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I got a special mission because I was with the First Order in Oga's, where I got to get an extra, data pad thing and talk to somebody. Which, in case anybody is wondering, I'm guessing Oga is actually with the First Order because the other ladies went and asked for Oga, and Oga said she was too busy for them.
I got this, and I was not with the First Order, so I got this in Oga's. So
really,
again, yeah, and I love that we all had different experiences. That's the thing, is that even my wife and I, are kind of making the same choices, choosing the same path. My son, who is he's a computer programmer, was saying that like he thinks that when you first interact with D309, you're answering questions like, why are you here? Are you here for vacation? Are you here for this? Are you here for this? He thinks that a lot of that starts your algorithm of like, deciding what story you're going to get. And then as you interact with the data pad or, make choices, that it sends you on your own path, which is, again, so much thought, so much preparation that went into this. But I go into Oga's because, again, when Kamila was, scheduling everything, she was like, do you want Oga's? I was like, yeah, I want Oga's. Like, I of course I want to do that while I'm there. And so we sit down at a table with some people who are like talking to each other and like, yeah, we were around some people that were on that Starcruiser thing. They were nuts. And I'm just like sitting there going, I'm glad that we're kind of a little bit like middle ground here. But I said something to the waitress, and I said something about like, oh, I was sent by blah blah blah, whoever it was, and she like reaches into her apron and just hands me this and moves on. And I'm like, wow, okay, all right, so this is the thing that's happening, and it's got the scanner to scan on the back of it, and it tells you what to do next. So all that kind of stuff. I thought it was pretty cool, Kamila, the stuff on the ground. But again, to Stephanie's point, you kind of gotta have to stay there and do those experiences. And all we did was we got off, we went to Rise and did that one because you had a lightning lane, and we went to Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run and did that, and we did Oga's, and then we walked around a little bit and then went back. So we just stayed in Batu the entire time in universe. I know when we talked about this as it was closing, one of the suggestions I always had was it should have been somewhere else, because if I'm using my Disney time at Disney World, maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I want to just do Disney World. And we talked about Vegas, and I know, Stephanie, at that point you had been the only one on, and you had said that Batu was kind of integral to the whole experience, which again then build a Batu and a Starcruiser and build that in somewhere else where you can have that experience. But again, I think this probably made it so we may not see
the Arizona desert. It's perfect.
Yeah, no, that's what I keep hearing.
I mean, this Planet Naboo, Tatooine. Come on,
right?
This
that
was the hallway.
The best.
That you would
Love
walk
that
down,
hallway.
and it's like you get to see things that you would not normally see, and be places
and
you
they
would
play
not
music.
normally be. Yeah,
they play music to get you in that thing too.
Yep. So again, I know we're going way over here, but I do want to, kind of say also, when it comes to the food, I thought the food was great. The food in the you get a meal credit for docking bay, which we used. And then you also have the buffet.
And it included alcohol. in case you didn't know that.
Well, again,
which I was shocked at.
We'll do that next time. No, we won't do that next time. So let me talk about merch for a second, because there was a merch shop on board that was in universe, and everything on there was in universe. It was outfits, it was different things that you could buy that were all in universe. And one of the things, and I may have told this on a post show at one point, was that in the gift shop you could get these pins that if you were a friend of the Resistance, you could get these specialty pins.
Oh,
and
Lord.
you had to say the magic. Oh, well, I'm sorry, you missed out, Miss First Order.
That's right.
No,
Yeah,
I didn't, but
here's the gift shop on board, and everything is about the Halcyon, and so I mean,
Chandrilla Starline.
Chandrilla Starline,
Chandrilla
exactly.
Starline.
Yeah.
So nothing says Galactic Starcruiser or Star Wars or any of that stuff that's in here. And some of them, again, were outfits, and some of them were droids and toys and things like that. So I saw somebody doing this thing where they reached underneath the counter and they opened it up with a special key, and they had some pins in there, and the pins looked normal, but then they opened up and it said Resistance, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, I want those.
Yes.
So I said something to the person there, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, those pins, and she goes, is there something you want to say to me? And I'm like, I want pins? Like, what is it you want me to say to you? And so, yeah, so apparently you had to say ignite the spark. So I went back to my room a little frustrated. I looked up what it was, found out it was ignite the spark, came back later, said to them, hey, I want to get those pins, ignite the spark. She goes, I can't really do anything about that right now. It's a little too crowded in here. Maybe come back later. And I turned around. There were two people on the other side. She's like, I can't do anything to help you. And I'm like, seriously, you're not going to sell them to me? And she goes, I don't know. It's too risky or something like that. And I was like, wow, I am livid at this point. And at this point, I'm like, and so then finally I snuck back one more time, and there was nobody else in. I'm like, ignite the spark, can I get some pins? And the woman's like, okay, let me show you what I've got. And she did, and then I bought them. And then there's an exit shop, and the exit shop is a huge surprise, because I knew there was an exit shop. And the exit shop I was like, I didn't even see it coming, because when we disembarked, I was like, I wonder where the exit shop is. It was right when we got on. There's like this garage door that closes down by the Starcruiser sign.
No.
Yes.
And I was like, I didn't even know that that's where this was until we got
Kamila,
off.
you missed it because you
I
left so
missed
early.
it.
Oh my
I
gosh,
hate
really?
that.
and it had the pins.
And they had the freaking pins.
They had
the
pins.
ones. They had the pins. Yeah. So
because-
here's the exit shop. What it looked like, but it was just like a garage door that opens up, and it had
that
stuff
does
that
say
was Star
Star
Wars and
Wars on it.
Starcruiser.
Mhm.
Yeah. And but I mean, it was smart. But again, it's if you're looking at the entrance here, and you can see where it says Starcruiser. You can see right beyond it. There's the gift shop. So let me see.
But
if
it's
I can...
definitely
I'm
like
so
an
upset.
impulse buy kind of thing. Like
Yeah,
they
it's
don't
like
give
right
you
in
much
here.
time. They're like, hey, get your luggage and buy some merch or something, So I wish that we had like a catalog to order from or something while we were staying there.
So I was first order, right? So, but I knew that I needed to say ignite the spark to buy those pins. And I went and I got the woman had just opened it, and my aunt goes, she's with the first order. Like,
She outed you.
and the woman with the pins shut the door and was like, what is that true? And I was like, no, what, me? Not with the first order. That's ridiculous. And she was grilling me for a good 5 minutes before she finally sold me the pins. But yeah, it was a battle just to get those pins. And also, my husband, who is usually anti-merch, I came home, I got the lightsaber, I got the shield, and I got and I got one of each pin. And he's like, "That's it? That's all you got?" And I thought he was gonna be mad at me that I spent this much, and he's like, "No, if you're gonna buy merch at any time, this is the time to do it."
Yeah.
So yeah, I wish that I had gotten more, because the shield was free. It was free. It came for free with the lightsaber.
Oh, yeah.
which was already on sale 30% off because all of the lightsabers were on sale, and we got the shield. And I'm like, dang it, I should have gotten, especially because we have 2 kids. He's like, what are we going to do with 1 lightsaber? I'm like, well, obviously now we need to go buy another lightsaber.
There was a lot of pressure because knowing this was like I was never going to be able to do this again, to know like what am I going to buy. Obviously I bought those action figures, but I am into action figures. Also bought the pins, and then a shirt of in universe, and a shirt that wasn't in universe. But the Magic Band, you get a Magic Band when you get on there, so they give you one that is they're Magic Band 2.0s. They're not the Magic Band Plus. So that this was part of your deal, and that was something that I went to Kamila about. I was like, I don't know how to get my Magic Band. She's like, calm down, you'll get your Magic Band. And so then in universe they sold this one, and I was like, well, that would be ridiculous because I already have one. Why would I buy one? But then I'm like, I have to do that. And then when you were leaving, there was a different one that said Star Wars. I'm like, well, I need to have that one too.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and
So
this one has the Chandrilla Starline logo in the middle. It has Star Wars up here, and then on the bottom it says Bespin, Coruscant, and Batu down here at the bottom.
Wow. So talking about merch, whenever you were signed up for it, about a few weeks ahead of time, I guess about a month ahead of time, they allowed you onto a special page onto the Shop Disney website, and you could purchase items that were like in the Starcruiser gift shop that is in universe, and you could wear those to be prepared for the ship. And so I bought 2 things. I bought a tunic for my kid, and then I bought I don't know what this was. It was a blue jumpsuit, and I thought it was maybe a flight suit. Turns out it was the mechanic's costume, and that mechanic's costume got my son recognized, and he, from the very get-go, he was able to lead muster with Sammy, and oh yeah, there he is, and we're sitting at dinner. And do you notice, Rob, there's nobody in those tables? No, we had only people in the middle. That's our entire, and we were in the earlier seating. Yeah, that's why. But anyway, and so because he was in that costume and he stood out, and so I'm glad that I did that, even though you pay a pretty penny for those things. But that's something that he will always remember, and it did make a difference. There he is, leading muster. Door.
Aww,
so cute.
Well, and what you guys show and tell with Desi. What we got?
Somebody in chat was asking to see the shield. This is the shield. It lights up the same color as the lightsaber. During lightsaber training, if you missed your blast with your lightsaber, people behind you were catching it with the shield. So, and it's got the Chandrilla Starline here. I haven't taken it out. My kids keep asking to play with it, but I'm a bad mom, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to take it out.
It's a nice base.
I don't know that makes you a bad mom, but yeah, that's so. But yeah, the lightsaber training room. I mean, that kind of stuff was really cool. So again, we had seen pictures, but I didn't know that the shields were a thing. The shields were on our wall to the left there, and it made it so that everyone who was in the room was doing something. You had the people in the front were using the lightsaber training. You had the people in the back all had shields so that they would catch it. And then the Saja, like, oh my gosh, like that guy was so good. The whole, like, if you really, and there was one part that was just like, really feel the force. And I was standing there and I'm like, I don't get it. And he's just like, and the trick was wherever you put your saber, it's going to work at that point. And I was like, it was like, oh yeah, really feel the force. It's like, okay. So I'm like, yeah, all right. Okay. I'm playing along now. But for a minute I was like, too logical. Like where's like I'm trying to figure out how to. Yeah, it's just we're pretending at this point. And then when he's like, Master Yoda comes in, and it's just like, okay, I'm bawling at that point. Like that was so amazing to be a part of that and be able to experience that. And it was much more moving than I thought. And I was mad when I first found out that they weren't using the sabers that we were shown by Josh that actually extended, and we weren't going to get to.
Yeah.
The one that Ray uses at the end. And so we weren't going to get to use that. And then it was like, oh, that's not really, like, it's not really shooting little things. Like, I feel like you could have done some AR and done better, but it was perfect. Like, the moment seemed like perfect the way that they had done it. So.
And I don't know about anybody else. I really enjoyed bridge training That was more like video
Yes.
gameplay. I get it, but they rotated you to where you got to do everything, and I think is one of the only things that I really got to do while holding an infant. But I really enjoyed that. Kamila, what'd you do?
Yeah, no, we did that, and what I really liked about the bridge training is that you kind of went through like these practice sessions, and then as part of the storyline, all of a sudden you had to like do it for real, and so it's like, oh shoot, and like it just like you get caught up in the moment, and it was just a perfect example of like, it's something you're learning how to do it, and the next thing you know, the story is happening around you, and you've got to act, and I think for a lot of us, like you're doing the lightsaber training and the bridge training kind of earlier. Well, I guess for us, it was kind of like maybe early evening of the first day, but like you had some time to settle in, you're starting to play around, and then you're jumping in. And between the lightsaber training and the bridge training, it's just like you're just blown away that first day. You're just like, for me, like I feel like as soon as we got there, I was like, oh, immediately was worth every penny. And I'm ready to sign up for another one.
And the second day, if you did the Link of Mock storyline, you got pulled into the bridge, and you were anybody that was not in there. I wasn't allowed to go and watch, and they had to actually, before the First Order came on board and everything at the very end for the big, they were trying to, keep them off at bay.
So, as part of the First Order storyline, when we took over the ship, we got to go to the bridge and, take us into light speed and shoot down some things. So that was pretty exciting. But the most exciting part for me as a Raylo was when the colonel came on to talk to the Lieutenant Croy, and they were kind of bickering back and forth, and Lieutenant Croy's like, oh, we've got Ray on the ship. And the colonel says, she means nothing to me. And then Kylo just comes in out of nowhere, and it's like, she means something to me. As a Raylo, I was like, oh my god.
You're like, she sure does, man. She sure does. I love that I'm kind of getting added in the chat. They saw Rob coming through the door, and they were like, we got money. That was David. And then Katie said Rob would have had all the popcorn buckets if there were any there. Yeah, obviously. That's a no-brainer. And then Jay Ware said Rob would have to stop at UPS before his flight. Almost. I did buy the Chandrilla model because, again, I started like getting panicky. I'm like, this is the only time. Like, I don't know where I'm going to see this stuff again. And I started buying stuff that I was like, and again, I tried to be smarter about it, but I was a little panicky about like missing out on anything. What were you going to say, Desi?
Well, I wanted to buy everything, and I thought, oh, my husband's going to be mad at me if I spend too much money, but that didn't happen. Also, in addition to buying things, I was blown away by the generosity of the passengers on the ship. Like, we met so many nice people who were just like, here, have this, or just people left pixie dust all around the ship. There was like a bookmark with a porg on it that somebody had left around. There was like a deck of playing cards with Obi-Wan on it. Just like so many wonderful things. And I met one of the artists from the art festival, the Festival of the Arts at EPCOT, and he gave me a Raylo piece of artwork.
That's awesome.
He originally gave me a different one, and then I saw he had the Raylo one, and I said, "Can I have the Raylo one instead?"
Let me show a couple pictures. This is all the freaking pins, and each of them opened up to do something with the resistance on it. So was very excited to have those. Also, again, just a dumb little thing. I liked that the shower soaps were like themed to, themed to the ship. I mean, little touches like that.
That's where those things in the shower actually make sense, because if you're floating in space, you can't, have them floating around you, kind of thing. We got speaking of
Here's
merch,
that cookie, by the way. Here's that cookie with
Yes.
the Chandrilla Starline logo on it. I'm sorry,
Did
Stephanie,
you
what were
buy
gonna say?
Sabacc cards?
I already had a box.
Oh.
Sorry.
My aunt
already
bought the Sabacc cards before she went, And then she saw them on the ship and was like, oh no, I want these sabacc cards. So she bought them again.
Those are the ones we got because that was the one thing my husband enjoyed the most, actually, was the sabacc tournament. He just would go in the sublight lounge, like you said, Kamila, and he would sit and they would make him whatever drink, and he would sit and play sabacc.
The dinner food, especially the second night, was beautiful. This whole like Mustafar thing that they had, that was like they would change the lighting in the dining room, and they would present it all at the same time, like you would on like a fancy like Apollo or something on one of the fancy ships. And then of course the blue shrimp. And I'm not a huge seafood guy, but like how can you not eat the blue shrimp if you're on? I mean, that was kind of the whole thing, right? And then this meal, I think this was from Kashyyyk, if I'm not mistaken. There were 2 different courses to this one, and just amazing presentation. That was delicious. Yeah. There was one point where we asked the waitress, like, are these carrots? And she's like, well, that's a Kashyyyk baba. Are they carrots? And she's like, yeah, they're carrots.
We had
then this dessert that looked like
go ahead.
the Chandrilla logo. Yeah. Again, all the crew, like you said, was amazing and so nice. And when we were on it, it was a full boat, and everybody was, because everybody wanted to be on it before it went away. And so, I think that's a little different than Stephanie, the experience you had, but also yours was probably cheaper. I mean, if you got the discount, I don't know.
I don't think I did, unfortunately.
Okay.
Plus, she had one of the suites. Let's not forget.
Oh, true. Cash money. So the final showdown was everything I wanted it to be. I had already seen footage before of this kind of stuff, and I tried not to see too much of it. But that final thing where like the banners are down for the First Order and the light fixture comes down in the middle and all of these things, and the fact that they kept with the storyline, and when we disembarked the next day, the light fixture was still, the chandelier was still hanging.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, congratulations to you. That was a smart move to just leave it. This is here's a better shot of it. Like Kylo, that rascal, he brought that down in the middle because he was going to kill everybody. But then we were saved. But it was, I mean, like the lightsaber thing with Rey and the whole him pulling her towards him and like all of that stuff. And then, Sammy coming out at the end. And again, as we've kind of argued back and forth, like not my Sammy, this was my Sammy. There's Sammy and Chewbacca. They were back there. And
one of the things that was so amazing too is once I was done with my little visit to the planet Batuu, I came back, got some air conditioning, and I'm kind of wandering around the ship, and I was actually in the climate simulator, and next thing I know, people are having a secret meeting, and Rey walks in, and so like that was one of the things that was cool, is like you could tell there was a storyline going on around her. As Resistance, we needed to hide her because there was talk that First Order had overtaken the ship. It's like just the fact that like all these things are happening around the ship at any given time. I mean, you were living in a production, and it was incredible. And then the other thing I wanted to say is I loved the little dance they taught us on the dinner the first night. Like that was just so fun. The first night dinner party, was just wonderful as well.
Here's a very rare shot of me and my wife hanging out. She totally got into the whole thing, and bless her heart. Awesome. Like as soon as I found, like when Kamila like secured the thing for me, I was like, I don't know who's gonna go, because I actually went the same time as the 16th anniversary of the blog, because I was planning on being at that, and then this came up, and it was like I just want to go, like I just want to be able to go. So unfortunately, it timed out that way. And then she was like. She was like, I'm in. Let me go buy space clothes. Let me get into this. And she like totally 100%.
So
she was like,
so cute.
Yeah.
Did she enjoy it, Rob?
She totally did. And she was like, I don't know that I would have enjoyed it or known that I would have enjoyed it. But yeah, she was like, I'm so glad that I went and had that experience. Here's the droid hanging out, and you could go and you could tap your magic band to the droid, and that was kind of a neat thing. And then here's another look at some of the snacks that they had out. Again, I have a problem that I take a picture of literally everything in my life, so there's just stuff like that we got to see along the way.
I actually felt like I did not take that many photos for me.
But you had the photo.
Like
talk about the photo package, Desi.
So I did purchase the photo package because I had FOMO. I was like, I have to do everything. I have to get the OGAs. I have to do the photo pack. That was not the photo package. That was just a regular,
that's just you out on the town.
Yeah, that's just me out on the town. That was not part of the photo package. But I mean, I did come with my full Mon Mothma from Andor outfit. That also not part of the photo package. Well,
then what the heck did they do with your money? That's what I want to know.
Hold on, I'll send some in our Slack. But it was a really fun experience, and people came up to me afterwards and were like, "Oh, we saw you taking the photos, and those look like they're going to be amazing." And it was just so much fun. I bet it would have been really nice to have my husband and kids there and do a full family portrait, but they weren't there, so it was just me, just mommy, and my kids were upset that they didn't get to go to space with mommy and Lola, but it's okay.
I kind of missed this breakfast, by the way. This breakfast,
yes,
I thought
breakfast was wonderful.
So freaking good. Like, give me more of that. There was some dessert that my wife got a hold of on one night and then spent the rest of the trip trying to find it again. I didn't
realize that the dessert party at the end was in the Crown of Corellia. I thought it was supposed to be in the atrium, and I went down there and nobody was there. And I was like, "Oh, am I late? Was the dessert party canceled?" And so apparently that is when you find out that Sandro and what's Gaia's assistant's name?
Kiani or
Quarini?
I forget.
Something like that.
Kwani.
Something like that. That they fall in love. I'm like, what? That's so cute.
Yeah. No, and the way that it ended, like the swelling of the music and the everybody gets out to the bridge and sees the fireworks happening out the window, is just that Disney ending that you wanted. And the music swells up and everybody's there, and it's emotional because you've spent the past 48 hours living this. And again, you could have been off to the side, you could have been somewhere else, but you've just spent all this time just living this, and it was an amazing experience to be able to have it. I tried to convince myself that I didn't need this experience, and when it was first announced, I was like, I will not be in there in the beginning. We'll wait till the prices come down. And then it was this thing's in trouble, and then it was they're going to close it, and then I had that FOMO of I'm not going to be able to go. And then again, bless her heart, Kamila beat 18 people up to try to make sure to get me that spot. And because again, I was like, I'll go if Tom goes, because he and I had talked about that, and he wasn't able to get another trip at that time. And I was just like, I just feel like I need to do this. And afterwards, I was like, again, I tried to convince myself, didn't need it. It's too expensive. It's dumb. It's LARPing. It's whatever. And then afterwards, I was just like, thank goodness that I got to do this. And I think we've all had this experience. We're all sad that no one else will experience it.
Yes.
There's so many things I want to do. I want to go back. I want to try different storylines. There's things that I missed I want to do differently. Like, there's so much that I want to do and go back for, and I'm so sad that I can't. And I thought, like, the price was what got me. Like, I can't do this. This is too expensive. Disney is crazy for charging this much. But when I went on and I experienced it, I'm like, I get it. And I legitimately think it's worth it, and I would pay it again.
Well, one last thing I want to show, and then Stephanie, I'm going to go around and let everybody kind of do a wrap up, so you guys could talk about the final thoughts. But when we were leaving, and I got into my car, the valet had left these cookies, which are just like the Chandrilla cookies.
Oh my gosh!
But they said
awesome.
Thank you. But again, just that little touch. How much did those cookies cost?
Yes.
What did that process mean? They just left those 2 cookies in the rental car as we were leaving, and I was just like, man, and it continues. Like, it continues to right now that this, everything that they did was first class, and I get it now. I get like the whole vibe of what first class is. Like, I'm an Outback guy, not a Ruth Chris guy. I don't necessarily need all that kind of stuff, but when you get that and you're like, oh man, it makes sense. I get where every penny of this went. And so to me, I think that was the thing. So I do want to give you guys a chance to kind of wrap up here, because again, I know we've gone way over, but I feel like we had a lot of stuff to share, and we're all emotional about it. We all loved the experience that we had. We were grateful to be able to have this experience. I hope that whatever they come up with next, and as you can see in the chat, most of the people think it's going to be something else. Some people said a hotel. Some people said Spirit Halloween was a big winner here in the poll. So thank you guys for doing that. Thank you guys for watching ParksCenter. We appreciate you. Big shout out to our WIGS members. We love our WIGS, the WDWNT Interglobe Society. You guys are awesome. We'll do a brief post show after this, but before we do anything, again, I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to say their last piece here, because that's why we are gathered here together to say goodbye to this thing that meant so much. So I'm going to start with Kamila, and we'll work our way back around to Desi, just about final thoughts.
I mean, I just feel so lucky and thankful that I was able to have this experience. To me, this was absolutely Disney at its very best. And I just feel like personally, so many of the Disney experiences I've had literally just in the past 3 weeks, between finally seeing Magic Happens for the first time, seeing Rogers the Musical, and then having this experience on the Galactic Starcruiser. I mean, I'm blown away by what Disney did here. And I say this as someone who's not even, I mean, I like Star Wars, but I'm certainly not someone who keeps up with it. I don't know all the characters. I was kind of just there to check it out, and it was something that I had hoped to do, but I thought I was going to be able to do it in 2024. That was kind of how I had allocated my vacations. And so thank you so much to Desi, who, when she had an opening in her voyage, I was able to kind of sneak in, and I had the most wonderful time with you all. I will say, a lot of people that we talked to on our voyage seemed to think that this experience was going to come back, and that, yes, Disney was going to make some changes. I hope that, I understand the need to make changes. I think Disney probably spent a lot of money on this. It's absolutely a production, and it's done the right way. I hope if they bring it back, there's a version that still allows for some of these types of voyages to continue. Maybe they're not, every other night, every 2 nights. Maybe they kind of have a mix of things, but to have a couple of these, in a month, I hope that's part of the equation as well, because I want to do an experience very similar to this one again. I don't necessarily want to do a watered down version. And so let people, if they want to pay, do that, but maybe you just have fewer in a month that you do. So just please, Disney, give us something. Give us a hint, anything.
Amen. Okay, Stephanie.
I echo everything that Kamila just said. I completely agree. My kids, this was their big Christmas gift, and I said this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, enjoy it. And they have not stopped asking to go back. And then, of course, when they heard it was closing, they're like, no! And so I really do hope, like you say, I hope that it comes back as something else, maybe a different storyline, but maybe they do have the a la carte option of just coming and doing, the dinner theater experience as well. But I really, you have to give it to the cast. The cast members were phenomenal. At one point, I had to go and return a stroller, which I was not using on the Starcruiser, but had it in the parks earlier, and I had to disembark down to earth just by myself and one cast member that had to accompany me. And I said to her, how long have you been working? And I said, since it opened. And she goes, well, no, that would have been hundreds of years ago. So I've only been working here since March or something to that effect. And so I thought, okay, well, yeah, I can't even break you while it's just the 2 of us in this little room, But they did it. Yeah, and there's the baby. I had to dress her up too. But they did a phenomenal job. And the cast, the actors, they were on. I don't know how they did their shifts and their breaks, but like you said, Kamila, there was something constantly happening. We always had to hide Chewie in the cargo bay. We had to sneak him up and down the staircase a million times. I don't know why, but there was always something happening that you had to go sneak around, or you had to go figure out on your data pad. Mm-hmm. And I was exhausted by the 2 days. So I don't know if we could do an additional day, honestly, but they planned it out perfectly. And final thought, I really think it actually makes sense to have it behind Hollywood Studios, because if Hollywood Studios is to live in the movies, then you are living your Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And Desi?
I loved all of the little details. So, for example, the builder of the ship was an Anzellan. That's the same character as Babu Frick. If you watch The Mandalorian, he's the one who, when Grogu hugs him, he goes, "Bad baby, bad baby." And he had his own little door on the ship to his cabin. It was like this big. It was so cute. Yes, yes. Um, Also, like, amazing cast members. um One in particular, Colby, I met because I was buying some merch off of him on the first day, and he remembered my name throughout the entire voyage and always came up to me. And because his backstory was he was from Chandrilla, and I said that I was from Chandrilla. So, we just got talking because we were from the same planet. And he said he was the only one from Chandrilla who was on the crew. And so when I was doing my, I think taking over the ship with Lieutenant Croy, I guess his parents were there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, my parents came from Chandrilla to visit me." And I was like, "Oh, did they come to arrange your marriage?" Just because, that's a thing in Chandrillan culture. So it was just like a funny experience. And also, if I could guess or hope for what they might do next, I do not, like, literally before I went on this, I thought, I hope they make a cheaper version. I hope that they break it out so you can stay in the hotel, and you could, everything else would be like an upcharge. If you want to do the dinner show, that would be an upcharge. No, I don't want any of that. I want it to come back exactly the same way. I want the same exact experience, but maybe just change up the storyline. I mean, for me, I'm at Reylo. My favorite movie is The Last Jedi, so I'm perfectly fine with sequels storyline. I think if they want the money, they want the people who are the hardcore Star Wars fans who will go spend that kind of money. It needs to be the original trilogy storyline. And if you kept the exact same thing, but swapped out Kylo Ren and Rey with Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, I would be happy. And I think a lot of people would be happy, and a lot of people would be willing to spend that money. And I still think they did not give it enough time. I think that once people got on it, they realized what it was, how special it is. They will make the return trips to come and try the different storylines. Mm-hmm. I don't think they gave it enough time for people to be making those return trips, to go home, tell their friends about it, how amazing it was, and get groups together to go again. So hopefully it comes back. That's my hope. It comes back exactly the same way, just different storyline.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm looking at the chat, and Rob has said this, I think, a couple times in chat, is the failure was the inability to market the experience plus an inflexible pricing model. The failure was not the execution of an immersive storyline. So yeah, everything was perfect the way it needed to be. I do think that it was too expensive for people. They did start to offer discounts, but probably too late. Maybe they should have factored that in ahead of time. Maybe instead of lowering to discounted rates, they should have, kind of like what you're talking about, Desi, offered some upcharge opportunities that maybe the superfans would have done, and then had it more attainable for everybody. But at the same time, there was a lot on this ship that, like I said, I looked at and went, no, I get it. I get why you had to ask me for this much money. I don't like it, but I get it. I get that this experience is exactly what you wanted it to be. And for me, honestly, every bit of it was exceeded my expectations. And because of ParksCenter, because of being on the network, we knew so much about this going in that more people wouldn't have known. And I do think that the marketing thing is a huge part of it. That people are like, what is this? Like, even people close to me would be like, what exactly am I going to? What am I going to see? What is this going to be? Like my daughter, like, showing her the trailer and her saying it's LARPing in space. Kinda, but also, like, if she had seen, like, what it was that we had experienced, and that she would have, I'm sure, loved every bit of it. But she's, she has a lot of anxiety. She doesn't want to interact with characters and things like that. And I get it. But again, you could choose how much of that you did or didn't do. You could wear your golf shirt like Stephanie's husband could, or you could, really kind of go all out like the Desi did, and the Bespin Queen herself, Kamila. I do think, but like every bit of it, I don't think it was just me as a Star Wars fan. I think every bit of it spoke to me in a different way. This D309 is, to me, one of those things that was like a linchpin of the whole thing, because it's in your room, and that you're introduced to it as soon as they give you a tour of your room. You're introduced to it. You can go and ask her questions. She asks you how your day was. You know, she's in jeopardy. You're helping her. You're helping her friends. Like, there's so many little things that you're just like, you're attached. And it's how could that happen in 48 hours? How could that happen? And you're attached to the characters. And you could look at it as, oh, well, you know, it's theater, but it really felt like you were part of it. And this is the thing that a lot of people have said in chat. Why can't Disney do this kind of experience every day, everywhere? And again, I mean, it just shows if you have enough money and you have enough time, you could put together something like this. But it's got to be something that everybody can do, or else you get stuck with what we're doing here. So I agree with all of you guys. I would love for people to be able to get on the ship. I would love to take my family, like my kids, onto the ship and show them what we got to experience. But I think that, to your point, Desi, I'd be going, when I was here before, here's what was cool. Here's what was cool. Up there was a fight with Rey and Kylo. This is where, you know, we saved SK because, you know, we helped distract the First Order. You know, this is where, you know, such and such happened. This is where I argued with this woman to give me some freaking pins. All of these things, like, you know, that were really cool on there. So again, I'm sorry we went long. We'll do, because our WIGS members are awesome, we'll do a quick post show after this. But I know it's Sunday night, everyone wants to go to bed, but I just felt like we needed to talk this through, and it's almost the end, and it'll be interesting to see in the coming weeks. Number one, how things end. I hope that there are great things for these cast members who poured their heart and soul into this, and then on top of that, what's next. So thank you all for being on here and sharing your Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser experiences with us. Desi, I hope that now you see that the true path is to ignite the spark.
Light the fire.
See, they get it. But again, thank you guys so much. We will see you next Sunday night on ParksCenter. I hope you guys have a great week. Again, to our WIGS members, we have a post show after this, so hang on. And we will see you in a second.
Bye. Dun 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 dun.
Oh.
Dun 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 dun. Did you catch
Perfect.
that Star Wars music?
Oh, it was lovely.
That's what you should have played. Oh.
No, because we would have been, like, you know, demonetized.